Chapter 91, The Past Deeds Meatball. They're here. They're here. They're here. Their hearts thumped loudly as the Past Deeds army drew closer. The Past Deeds Eradication army had about 300 players of different job classes, whereas the Past Deeds army had about 200 players consisted mostly of warriors, knights, and priests. The side with numerical superiority in this battle was apparent. However, Past Deeds currently had an army that pushed the concept of meat shield to the extreme. With all these meat shields banding together into a group, it was no longer a meat shield but a meatball instead, a large meatball that could roll over everything on its path. The Past Deeds meatball did not avoid this clash by using alternative routes. Instead, the meatball confidently took the widest street leading to the plaza and continued its fear-inducing march onward. Archers, ready up! Dusky Cloud sent this message to every channel, not caring if the players in his friends list were actually archers or not. The Past Deeds meatball arrived at their army's vanguard at this moment. The archers atop the roofs furtively searched for Silver Moon's figure among the crowd. Sword Demon, Dusky Cloud, and the others who were standing at the very front of the defensive line saw clearly their opponent's battle formation. Fuck! Everyone cursed in unison. Silver Moon, you lowlife. You're far too despicable and shameless. Dusky Cloud ridiculed loudly. You've ruined the fight of the century with your cowardice. Celestial Pick hollered as well. What a cheap move. Cheap. The meatball marching down the street wore masks. With their looks hidden, how could anyone locate Silver Moon among this sea of soldiers? It was not just Silver Moon, even differentiating the knights and the warriors would be very difficult. After all, in-game knights that had focused on adding points to strength would be able to equip heavy armor as well. Upon reaching a charging distance, the Past Deeds meatball suddenly got enveloped by a golden glow. Everyone was bathed in this light that was dispersing about, making the Past Deeds meatball strongly resemble a real golden fried meatball. The heart of that light. The one holding that glowing sword must be Silver Moon. Broken Cloud quickly told them upon hearing that the main force was unable to identify Silver Moon among the mass of meat. However, there was a problem. No in-game rule stated that a weapon must be raised in the air to activate a skill. Players who did so merely wanted to make the skill execution look grander and themselves to appear more dashing to onlookers. Would Silver Moon feel the need to show off with his face covered right now? That sword should have been named as a king's private blade since Silver Moon currently had it hanging down his body. If he could, he would probably stuff it inside his pants just to make it more ludicrous. This was why King's command had not descended from above the players' heads but had slowly enveloped them from below instead. After all, the light was originating from a sword below. How could they find the golden sword that was hanging down between Silver Moon's pants among these people clad in golden light? Nonetheless, the archers would be wasting their effort of climbing up the rooftops if they gave up with just that. They, therefore, chose to take advantage of the fact that their opponents were lacking long-range attackers by hailing arrows at their midst. This saying held some truth: there are 1,000 hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes. In this case, dozens of archers had dozens of Silver Moon in their eyes. The arrows rained down upon the Past Deeds, but the meatball turned a blind eye to those. The squad of priests tried their best to bestow heal on the wounded. Anyone who got hit by the arrows immediately received heal. The archers' deadly arrows on snipe, which could usually insta-kill the targets, were proven ineffective when faced with this meatball under the combined effects of Silver Moon's King's command, Knight's blessing of health, and Priest's heal. All the archers were heartbroken. The speed boost the King's command provided the meatball was evident. A cloud of dust rose off the ground and temporarily fogged up the surroundings as the meatball agilely rolled out of the archer's shooting range. Motherfuckers, ready yourselves! Dusky Cloud bellowed as he twirled his dagger before him. However, the dagger was so small that Dusky Cloud only looked as if he was flailing an empty hand before thrusting it forward from afar. He very much resembled a person throwing a piece of rock at the moment. Celestial Pig, at least, looked more ferocious as he raised his huge axe toward the sky, hollering, "Everyone, get ready!" Everyone roared in unison, yet no one moved. Their battle strategy had already been set. Thus, the vanguard, made up of the melee job classes, stood their ground firmly to maintain the battle formation and left the attacking to the mages behind them. The mages, for their part, raised their staves, casted descending wheel of flames, and waited for the plaza in front of the Mage Academy to be engulfed by the raging inferno. As for the past deeds mages still inside the Mage Academy, with how Sword Demon and the rest had already lost 3 of the spawn points to the enemies, they would naturally did not leave any holes in their defenses and garrisoned enough archers to restrict the mages within. Those mages only had to take a step out of the safe zone and they would be shot to death apathetically. Both armies finally clashed. Descend. Dozens of mages bellowed and countless flame wheels rolled down the sky, setting the entire plaza ablaze. The past deeds meatball stood upon the scorched earth. The priests casted heal non-stop, unmindful of others except for their teammates. With the light protecting the past deeds army, the meatball managed to maintain its crispy golden sheen and avoided getting barbecued black by the burning land. Although death loomed before past deeds, with a few actually dying, the meatball still braved the hellish fire and continued to press onward. Whenever a row of past deeds vanguard would fall, the subsequent rows would follow up quickly by advancing a few more steps than the previous row. While many might criticize the past deeds tactic, which was heavily reliant on the constant replenishment of its vanguard without caring about their losses, it was undeniable that the meatball was currently unleashing an explosive fighting strength. Actually, past deeds was more than capable of employing such tactic, as its overall strength was already above Sword Demon and the gangs. If past deeds managed to engage Sword Demon's group in melee, the past deeds Eradication army would have no way of battling them. Upon finally penetrating the past deeds Eradication army's first line of defense, some meatball immediately formed an evenly spaced row and growled in unison. Cyclone. It was a neat row of Cyclone. This was the past deeds elite squad, which was composed of the members that had accompanied Silver Moon from the start. There were only 20 or so of them, yet none had dropped a level despite participating in several skirmishes before this. They had left their rage points untouched since the beginning of this guild war by not unleashing Cyclone even once. At present, each of them had a bar full of rage points. Not only did their joint execution of Cyclone just now propel their bodies to rotate fast, it also extinguished the raging fire in their surroundings. With past deeds now engaging the vanguard of Sword Demon's group in a melee, the past deeds Eradication army's mages could no longer cast Descending Wheel of Flames from behind. After all, Parallel World did not grant players immunity from friendly fire. The past deeds Eradication army's battle formation was instantly smashed, as none of them could withstand the joint Cyclone attack of the opposing warriors. Some warriors on Sword Demon's side activated Cyclone as well, intending to meet past deeds Cyclone with force. However, the qualitative difference between them and the past deeds players, who were currently under the King's commands buffs, only made them suffer a faster death. Retreat. Full retreat. Sword Demon directed his men to move backward. As long as they increased their distance from their attackers, the mages would be able to cast spells and salvage the situation. However, the past deeds players did not give them the chance to do so. The warriors promptly deactivated Cyclone upon seeing their opponents retreating and advanced on them step by step. These warriors immediately closed in the distance with their opponents once more. The mages of the past deeds Eradication army had no choice but to cancel their casting. The advantage that Sword Demon's group held was instantly demolished by past deeds. Fuck it. Let's just go all out. Dusky Cloud yelled. Seeing the opposing warriors before him deactivating Cyclone, he immediately dashed forward to engage them in a fight. Dusky Cloud willingly gambled his life for this sliver of chance. After all, they were still suppressing past deeds in terms of number. The opposing side's formation of about 100 men lost about 2/3 of their members while trying to break through the past deeds Eradication army's first line of defense. As for the past deeds Eradication army, only those shredded by Cyclone just now were sent packing. Hence, their numerical superiority increased further instead of diminishing. Although they could not rely on their mages any longer, they still had a chance of overcoming past deeds. Could Sword Demon and the bunch win by going all out? It would be extremely difficult. That was what Sword Demon felt as he crossed blades with the warrior in front of him. Warriors under the King's command were terrifying. Indeed, Sword Demon's attacks were virtually ineffective against the boosted HP and defense of the warrior he was facing. The situation was made even worse by the fact that behind every warrior stood a priest. Some even had 2 priests. When the past deeds troops were storming into the fray, their priests were closely following behind them. By staying hidden behind their own vanguard, These priests suffered little damage from the mage's spells, so their casualties were minimal. Behind every successful man was a woman. Behind every successful mute shield was a priest. The thieves, who were inherently weak against the warrior job class, naturally stood no chance against these warriors paired with priests. Sword Demon was of course not an exception to this, as the attacks he dealt to the warrior were easily healed by one or two priests. In contrast, Sword Demon would not receive any healing if he was the one to suffer the opponent's 2 consecutive attacks. Even the level 0 warrior skill slam could deal high damage to a low HP thief due to the warrior's buffs. Moreover, there was the level 18 skill charge. Besides dealing high damage, it could apply the dizzy effect on the target. None of past deeds had performed charge yet. They were probably wary of the past deeds eradication army surrounding them if they charged in arbitrarily. The past deeds warriors were facing 2 or 3 opponents at once. However, under the support of various skills and buffs, they fearlessly dove deeper into their opponent's ranks. The purpose of Meat Shield was expressed to the extreme by these players, or at least that was the case for these around level 30 players. On a rooftop by the side of the plaza, a few players were gesticulating at the battlefield before them. "I think that one is Silver Moon." One of them pointed at a masked man in the center of the battlefield. "I've been watching him for a while now and he has yet to do anything besides move about. I reckon he has to keep moving for that skill of his to work." "Shoot him," another said. "Now I doubt I can insta-kill him, though," the archer in the group said hesitantly. "Maybe attacking him will interrupt the skill?" Someone guessed. "That makes sense." The archer promptly nocked an arrow and aimed it at the suspected to be Silver Moon individual. The arrow on snipe whistled through the air and struck the said person. Just as the archer had expected, the person did not get insta-killed. Additionally, the sudden attack did not elicit surprise from the person. All it made him do was turn his head toward the attack's origin, as several priests beside the person hurriedly bestowed heal on him. "That's him. Alright, let's find a few more archers and insta-kill him." Chapter 92, Descending Wheel of Flames. The players who were searching for Silver Moon were none other than the 3 members of Young Master's elite mercenary group, Royal God Call, Brother Assist, and Young Master Han. War Without Wounds became too impatient upon seeing the mess that the battle had escalated into, so he directly joined the players clashing at the plaza. He, together with Sword Demon and the gang, formed the Past Deeds Eradication Army's first line of defense. Currently, he was ferociously carving through the enemy's ranks alongside the others. The trio looked all around them once young Master Han suggested that they gather more archers. Although quite a few archers were still hiding on the rooftops, most of them were out of range of the Past Deeds meatball that had begun its melee engagement at the plaza. Currently, these archers were readjusting their positions in the hopes of contributing what strength they could to the battle below. In fact, those who were still out of range and could not strike the enemies despite moving to the rooftop's edges decided to just jump down and join the fighting below. Some of the cleverer players had identified Silver Moon among the enemy lines and headed toward the appropriate shooting locations. Nonetheless, these archers had yet to reach a vantage point and had their views obstructed by some retreating structures, so they could still not attack Silver Moon, who was at the heart of the Past Deeds battle formation. "Over here!" Royal God Call shouted toward the running archers. "You can shoot him from here." Some archers heard Royal God Call's shout and quickly made their way to him. "Do you guys know snipe?" Royal God Call asked them this important question, as it was impossible to shoot the target from his location without snipe. Several of the running archers answered Royal God Call using their middle fingers. They felt that such a question was as good as belittling their abilities. Royal God Call felt very pleased. He addressed Brother Assist and Young Master Han, "All good." In the end, he had celebrated too early. The archers who were running over suddenly screamed one after another. Following this, a few thieves appeared from behind their backs. At the same time, the other archers at the plaza were also ambushed by thieves on stealth. All these archers were quickly disposed of by the thieves that had completely caught them by surprise. Before Royal God Call knew it, he was the only alive archer left. Thieves were now standing on places where the archers had once stood. Royal God Call was filled with anxiety by this, and he promptly checked his immediate surroundings. The thieves of Past Deeds that had respawned in the Thieves Union finally joined the battle. This was just the beginning, since all the spawn points, besides the Mage Academy, were no longer being blocked off. The past deeds members revived themselves and quickly headed to this war zone. The revived players of the past deeds eradication army also had the same idea, so the two sides inevitably met each other along the way. Currently, the two powerful forces' fight was not limited to this plaza and had already spread all over the city. No matter where one was, be it on a street or in an alleyway, players could be seen clashing with one another. Now what? Royal God Call asked anxiously. He alone would obviously not be enough to kill Silver Moon, judging by the Golden Meatball's brazen actions. Sword Demon and the Lord could not do it as well, as they were under a lot of pressure right now. They were constantly losing men, their line of defense also kept on retreating as their formation was battered left and right by the enemy's attacks. As a corollary, the fragile mages behind the line were pushed to the ground by the force of their retreating comrades. The whole battlefield was in utter chaos. Gil. Silver Moon now openly displayed his arrogance. Raising King's blade high above his men's heads, he let the golden glow envelop the surrounding area. As the past deeds army everywhere entered the AO of King's command, they attacked Sword Demon's side with more gusto. Royal God Call was royally enraged. He would gladly exchange his bow for a rocket launcher and blow Silver Moon to smithereens with it if he could. At this moment, the air around Silver Moon and his meatball became heated. Following this, a visible distortion appeared right above their heads and formed into a flame wheel. This flame wheel spun and quickly descended into their midst. It's just descending wheel of flames, what's the big deal? The past deeds members under this flame wheel thought to themselves. It would only be daunting if there were more flame wheels. With this train of thought, they all turned their noses up in total disregard of the spell. But when the fire wheel completed its descent and released its might, everyone was flabbergasted. A huge, empty circle immediately appeared in the center of the past deeds battle formation. This circle's sole occupant was Silver Moon, who was standing there with his sword held aloft. What happened? Where did they go? All the past deeds players dumbly looked around them. Even Sword Demon and his comrades felt baffled by what had just happened. Did Silver Moon use a teleportation skill to send his troops elsewhere? Is there even such a skill? That would be too extravagant and unrealistic, right? Sword Demon and his men looked suspiciously at their rear. Could the meatball have been sent right behind them? Only Silver Moon knew what had truly transpired. Too much. The damage from that single flame wheel is too much. Silver Moon only survived the attack due to his high-grade equipment. The King's blade in his hand, besides the King's command skill, had a trait that boosted all his stats by 8 points. The accessories he was wearing provided him with high magic resistance, while the equipment he was using afforded him high physical defense. Silver Moon's top-grade equipment from head to toe definitely matched his reputation. Nonetheless, that descending wheel of flames still managed to reduce his HP to a sliver. He might be alive right now, but he was close to dying. This mage's magic attack power is too OP, Silver Moon thought to himself. At this moment, a man squeezed through the opposing side's fragmented formation. He was wearing a pitch-black mage robe and holding a purple-colored sword shrouded in black luster. 27,149. All the past deeds members had taken the bounty mission for Gufei, so many of them recognized him at a glance. Gufei smiled sheepishly at Sword Demon and the others. Sorry, I'm late. How did you get here? Sword Demon stared at Gufei in astonishment. That's a long story. After leaving Ui Valley, I arrived at the plains. There, I threw the few thieves past deeds had sent after me off my track. Afterward, I entered the city through the north gate and encountered the Black Hand mercenary group again. I finally got here after freeing myself from their hassling. Seeing everyone fighting energetically, I couldn't resist joining in. The rest is history. Oh, yeah, I learned a new spell on my way here. Look. Gufei rambled all this in one go, before pointing Moonlit Nightfalls forward, descending wheel of flames. Descend. Sword Demon and company raised their heads. Meanwhile, the players of past deeds yelped in surprise and scattered about. In the end, nothing happened. PFTT. Everyone exhaled in disappointment. The past deeds players, on the other hand, turned beet red. They were beating themselves up for easily getting frightened by such a blatant lie. But they quickly got back into formation when Silver Moon bellowed, "Everyone, don't waste time," and quickly charged forward. While he survived that attack earlier, his wife, Vast Lushness, did not. Without her mana support, King's command could not be maintained much longer. Hence, They had to use this limited time to quickly massacre their enemies. Kill. The Past Deeds members hollered, as they followed their guild leader's orders. Immediately after their voices died down, however, a fiery glow burst into existence above their heads. These players had no time left to dodge the attack by the time they discovered it. The flaming wheel mercilessly descended upon them and left yet another circle with only Silvermoon standing inside. "That's the effect I wanted," Goofy smiled slyly. He had conveniently left his long casting time out of his speech earlier. Goofy then addressed Silvermoon, who was in the middle of the scorched circle. "You've got quite a lot of HP." Silvermoon was on the brink of death with that initial flame wheel, but the priests nearby readily healed him back to full HP. When the second flame wheel landed, the priests did the same thing, which resulted into him being the sole survivor of Goofy's attack once more. The priests could not save the others as they only had enough time to bestow heal on Silvermoon. Sword Demon was speechless as well. This was his first time seeing Goofy use a spell. Was it not a bit too much to have such devastating damage output? Moreover, Goofy mentioned that he had just learned of the spell. Would that not mean that his proficiency of it was only basic? He was holding a sword as well. Did a sword even have magic attack power? The chaotic fighting had momentarily become still. It was as if someone had pressed the pause button for the game. Everyone gawked at Goofy. Whoever he pointed that sword felt his or her heart trembling. "Is he the one you're looking for to avenge No Smile?" Celestial Pig whispered to Dusky Cloud. "Huh?" Dusky Cloud unhappily affirmed. "Don't look at me for help. You're on your own in this," Celestial Pig continued. "You motherfucker." Dusky Cloud cursed. Goofy currently looked dashing, as he addressed the mages that had fallen to the ground on Sword Demon's side. "You guys, move closer to the enemies so that your spells can hit them. You won't hit anything if you continue to cower behind like that. Everyone, stop dawdling and charge into him." While his men stood there in a daze, Silvermoon worriedly watched each second pass by. He had given that last order to deal with Goofy to the two warriors nearby. The two warriors hurriedly unleashed Cyclone on Goofy. Unlike others who found Cyclone scary, Goofy did not even bat an eye when it was unleashed. He firmly held the sword to his side. Borrowing the Cyclone's force, he flew outward from the spinning pair of men. Goofy was akin to a soldier descending from the heavens the way he had used the Cyclone's inertia to propel himself straight toward Silvermoon. And with a raise of his hand, his sword cut through air like a soaring phoenix. Silvermoon instantly got pierced. Although he saw Goofy flying over, he did not move away. This was because he had assumed that Goofy was just thrown toward his direction unintentionally by the Cyclone's force. Silvermoon even thought that Goofy would turn into a stream of white light before he hit the ground. The many players on the plaza thought the same thing as well while watching him fly through the air. Who would have thought that not only had Goofy blocked the skill, he had borrowed its spinning motion to launch an attack as well. Goofy alighted on the ground, turned his body around, pointed his sword at Silvermoon, and shouted, "Twin incineration! Incinerate!" A blazing light enveloped his blade and instantly set Silvermoon on fire. Level 18 Mage skill, Twin incineration. It was an instant cast skill that burned a target, lowering the HP every second for a total of 5 seconds. Silvermoon remained standing despite being hit by that spell. Goofy was not surprised by this. After all, Silvermoon only died back in the tavern after Goofy's 3 consecutive slashes had pricked sacred flames of baptism's fire attack. Silvermoon was not wielding King's blade, did not receive blessing of health, and was not under King's command back then. Right now, however, he was completely geared up for the battle. Moreover, Silvermoon currently had many priests by his side. Heal was constantly bestowed on him whether his HP was full or not. Dusky Cloud and the rest finally reacted. Shouting their battle cry, they dashed toward the two in a grand fashion. Sword Demon entered stealth mode and he headed toward Silvermoon as well, taking advantage of the opponent's confusion. Far away, young Master Han patted Royal God calls back, find an opportunity to send an arrow his way. Royal Godcall nodded his head absent-mindedly. He was still wondering about the event a while ago. How did he manage to deal such an insane amount of damage? Chapter 93, The Real Warrior. Goofy's appearance had abruptly turned the tables in the plaza. Him casting Descending Wheel of Flames twice had managed to destroy the formation of the Past Deeds meatball, and even the warriors could not resist the explosive inferno he had created despite having high physical defense. After all, only high magic resistance could protect them from Gu Fei's spells. Actually, Silver Moon survived Gu Fei's flame wheels only due to his unusually high magic resistance. Gu Fei promptly checked his park value. He felt like crying when he saw that it had risen up to 28 points. This practically wasted his effort of camping out in Ui Valley for a few hours. At this rate, when would he become a free man? Gu Fei felt even more aggravated by his current predicament upon remembering what would happen once he reached 30 park points. NPCs would launch a manhunt for him. NPCs with combat job classes could be found anywhere in the city. Even this Mage Academy he was currently at had 2 NPC guards standing right by its entrance. How scary was the power of NPCs? No one knew at the moment, and Gu Fei did not wish to find out himself. With this thought in mind, Gu Fei resolved to keep his park value below 30 points and designated Silver Moon as his last skill. The sword came and went. Spells and quite a few kung fu techniques arrived and departed as well. Nonetheless, Silver Moon still stood steadfast. This feat was not because of Silver Moon having abundant HP, but because of the nearby past deeds priests incessantly bestowing heal on him. Every stab of Gu Fei resulted into Silver Moon receiving heal 3 or 4 times. The game officials had regrettably not taken over healing into consideration. Otherwise, Silver Moon would have long exploded from the excessive amount of healing he had received from his priests. After a few more rounds of fighting and healing, a momentous chance appeared. Silver Moon's mana depleted, which resulted into the effect of King's command ending. The golden glow disappeared and the past deeds army returned to normal. Dusky Cloud and the gang cheered for Gu Fei, not knowing that the cancellation of the skill was a result of Silver Moon's mana depleting and not due to Gu Fei keeping Silver Moon occupied. The past deeds warriors failed to readjust themselves to the sudden loss of buffs and continued to fight fiercely with the other side as if they still had boosted stats. For 2 reasons. These warriors' HP visibly dropped under Dusky Cloud and his gang's assault. First, they were no longer receiving buffs from King's command. Second, most of the past deeds priests were dead. As for the remaining priests, they solely focused on healing Silver Moon. In no time at all, Dusky Cloud and the others crushed these warriors brutally. They then restored the leftover priests while conveniently killing the knights they encountered along the way. In the twinkling of an eye, the smaller army of past deeds was mostly killed off. Silver Moon watched with mortified eyes as all the subordinates, including the priests, around him were annihilated. Knight was a job class that had low combat capabilities on its own. Moreover, his depleted mana prevented him from boosting his own stats. Without his subordinates and priests' support, he could only watch his HP visibly get reduced by Gu Fei. Presently, Silver Moon was wholly relying on his high defense and the high damage output of King's Blade to forcefully clash with Gu Fei. And yet, he had one glaring problem: he could not land a hit on Gu Fei. At this moment, Sword Demon, who had already crept behind Silver Moon, used backstab without hesitation. Most of the players had exhausted their strength after fighting for this long. In contrast, Sword Demon could still activate backstab at this decisive moment. Having the foresight to reserve enough points for the activation of that skill, Sword Demon truly deserved his reputation as a top gaming expert. In a distance, Royal God Call seemed to take Sword Demon's reappearance as a form of signal. Pulling back his bowstring, he fired off an arrow on snipe that sailed through the air and lodged itself deep into Silver Moon. Gu Fei thrust his sword into Silver Moon at this time as well. As a corollary, their combined attacks turned Silver Moon into a beam of white light. Gu Fei promptly pulled out his stats window and saw that he had a freshly updated park value of 29 points. He instantly felt tears well up. He should have scored his hit earlier. That way, the final park point for killing Silver Moon would be counted on Royal God Call's head. While Silver Moon's death signified the end of war in Gu Fei's eyes, Dusky Cloud and the rest did not share the same sentiment. With their arms raised in the air, they thundered, "Beat them while they're down." They divided everyone into groups and sent them to every spawn point within the city to continue the massacre there. Indeed, this war was far from over. Dusky Cloud's group only attained victory in the Mage Academy's battle. This clash between past deeds and the past deeds Eradication army would obviously escalate into a protracted PvP. This was but a game, After all, ending a war here was difficult when their lives were unending. This war now depended on the mental capacity of either side. Whoever had a more indomitable fighting spirit would emerge victorious. Today's grand battle with past deeds had one obvious effect. It pulled past deeds closer to Dusky Cloud and his comrades' level. With the gap reduced, past deeds could no longer be as tyrannical as before. However, Dusky Cloud and company were still far from truly eradicating past deeds. Upon seeing past deeds guild leader Silvermoon's insane battle support skill, the likelihood of players joining his guild might be even higher than before. Sword Demon looked on these players running off in every direction while exuding palpable killing intent with apathy. Having accomplished his goal, what happened from here onward would be left for Dusky Cloud and his comrades to deal with. As Sword Demon thought of this, he noticed Gufei hiking up his robe and heading toward a direction. "Where are you going?" Sword Demon hurriedly chased after him. "Off to erase my park value." Gufei's eyes were brimming with tears. Sword Demon recalled Gufei's majestic casting of Descending Wheel of Flames twice and patted the latter's shoulder consolingly. "Take care." Gufei bade him goodbye and left. He also did not care about the massacre happening all around him. After assigning all the manpower, Dusky Cloud approached Sword Demon. "Your bro is too up." Sword Demon nodded his head. "I owe him a huge favor." "If he hadn't shown up just then, we would have all been goners," Dusky Cloud said. Sword Demon silently agreed. "Where is he off to?" Dusky Cloud asked curiously, as he stared at Gufei's receding back. "Off to erase his park value," Sword Demon answered. Dusky Cloud recalled the 2 flame wheels from before and was taken aback. His park value must be at 20 by now. "Yeah?" Just as he finished speaking, he remembered that he had picked up the bounty mission for 27,149. He opened his mission tab and looked. 29 park points. His jaw dropped from shock. One more point and NPCs would hunt him down. If a player accumulated 30 park points, his or her capture would result into a drop of 5 levels besides being imprisoned. It was an extremely harsh penalty to bear. "That guy's really brave," Dusky Cloud thought to himself. Young Master Han, Royal God Call, and Brother Assist climbed down the rooftop. They could not see even a shadow of Gufei once they looked around the plaza, so they asked Sword Demon, "Where's Miles?" "Off to erase his park value." Sword Demon got annoyed at repeating this answer. Young Master Han swept his gaze to Sword Demon and Dusky Cloud. "If Miles hadn't appeared just then, you guys would have been obliterated." The two remained mum. "Stupid. Why didn't your mages attack the enemies that had closed in on you guys? They should have killed them all, even if it meant sacrificing your men. Their side surely would have greater losses. You only had to deal with those arrogant warriors in front." Young Master Han's words were cut short by Dusky Cloud suddenly darting to him and grabbing his collar. He was unable to dodge Dusky Cloud's move since thieves had higher agility than priests. Royal God Call, Sword Demon, and the rest could only gape at this situation. However, Dusky Cloud did not appear to be intending to attack young Master Han. His move seemed to have been fueled by anger. He forcefully stopped himself from killing young Master Han on the grounds that the latter was connected to Sword Demon. "What are you doing?" Young Master Han asked stoically. "Remember, we never attack our brothers, even if it means our deaths." Dusky Cloud bellowed. "Idiot!" Young Master Han was not impressed. "What did you say?" Dusky Cloud was about to wail on him, but not through the use of an inch game skill or technique. Just as he jabbed his fist toward young Master Han's face, Sword Demon and Brother Assist separated them. "Since you're so lively, why don't you think of a way to deal with Silvermoon? With that skill of his, it'll only be matter of time before he crushes your motley crew of ruffians." Young Master Han coldly remarked. "You motherfucker! Who are you calling ruffians?" Dusky Cloud tried to rush at the man again, but he was held back by Sword Demon. "We're all expert gamers to a certain degree. If you want to fight, use skills and equipment. Don't punch and kick like school kids in a playground." How unprofessional. Royal God Call did not step in to stop the fight before, yet here he was gloatingly chastising them. No one bothered with his comment. Brother Assist tried to appease Dusky Cloud by saying, "Young Master Han has a point. You guys should quickly come up with a plan to deal with Silvermoon. You lot won't stand a chance if he gathers his men and uses that skill again." Dusky Cloud did not say a word. He of course understood the logic behind their words. Glaring at young Master Han one last time, he turned around to gather his men. Before long, the only ones left in the plaza were the members of young Master's elite mercenary group. "Where's Wounds?" Royal God Call asked as he searched left and right for the nowhere to be found warrior without wounds. He got addicted to killing, so he joined the warriors into assaulting the Thieves' Union. Sword Demon informed them. "What about us?" Royal God Call questioned. "We've all got some park value, right? Let's erase them together since we've nothing to do," Sword Demon suggested. However, the three shook their heads. "Nope, we don't have any." Sword Demon felt oppressed. He had followed Dusky Cloud and the lot in their assault, earning himself 4 park points. Y City was a mess, with fights and deaths everywhere, as if the devil himself had wreaked havoc on it. No one else was in the streets besides the players of the two PvPing powerhouses. Even those who wanted to watch the fights had to stop themselves, as the situation in Y City right now was definitely not suitable for onlookers and spectators. If players so much as look at any of these PvPers the wrong way, they would most likely garner the resentment of both sides. Goofy made his way toward the bounty assignment hall. Along the way, he could see the Past Deeds players running in every direction as they were chased by the Past Deeds Eradication army. Goofy felt as if he had the King's command skill of Silver Moon's King's Blade. This was because of the two PvPing forces' reactions whenever they encountered him. The Past Deeds Guild members would prostrate themselves on the ground and dramatically begin fleeing. Meanwhile, the Past Deeds Eradication army would quickly feel as if they had gained a strong backer. With just his presence, thieves would boldly engage warriors and mages would chase after archers. Goofy actually did not intend to join their skirmishes, as he had firmly resolved not to increase his park value beyond 29 points. The bounty assignment hall was the most popular place in Y City, yet right now it was almost deserted. After all, who would dare take bounty mission at the present situation? Was it not as good as courting death if the target belonged to one of the two forces mutually slaughtering one another in the city? Those currently at bounty assignment hall were merely enjoying the sight of the wanted players list constantly getting updated. Moreover, many clues could be gleaned between the two parties' showdown from it. As an unassuming mage entered the hall, he immediately heard someone cheering, "Wow, this one has 7 park points now. How savage." The mage quickly went up to the person who had said this and asked, "Where?" The person promptly pointed to the mission interface listing the said fugitive. The unassuming mage took that bounty mission without hesitation. The person dumbly watched the mage until the latter exited the hall. "That guy is insane. He just took the bounty mission for that fugitive with 7 park points. SHH. The man beside him shushed him. "What?" the person asked, puzzled by the other's reaction. "He's this one." The person pulled out the overall wanted players list and pointed at the top fugitive displayed on it. It was the one with serial number 27149. Chapter 94, Erasing Park Points. Goofy quickly made his way toward the freshly updated coordinates of the target for his current bounty mission. At this moment, he was actually feeling quite depressed. This was because of the way the players in Y City were treating him. One example was the Past Deeds. Whenever the guild's members saw Goofy, they would quickly run away as if he had the plague. Dusky Cloud's group was no better. Despite their cordial treatment of him, he could still sense a hint of animosity radiating from them. Goofy was actually an amiable person, yet everyone in this city seemed to think of him as the devil incarnate. At present, few people actually knew what had started the guild war. From the perspective of young Master's elite mercenary group, this war was instigated for the purpose of helping Goofy get out of his predicament. Therefore, if one counted all the men of the two forces, it could be said that Goofy had dragged 1,000 men into his problem. When he thought of this, Goofy could not help but feel slightly abashed. Just what meritorious deed had he accomplished in life to have so many men sacrificing their lives for his sake? But when Goofy thought more about it, it was actually only the members of young Master's elite mercenary group who were concerned about his well-being. Dusky Cloud and his comrades merely participated in the war because they had vested interest in the Past Deeds' destruction. Speaking of the Past Deeds players, They would probably have many sleepless nights if they found out that the reason they had suffered this devastating blow was due to them wanting to exact vengeance on Gufei by taking the bounty mission for him. This was exactly what spoiling the ship for a halfpenny worth of tar meant. Gufei continued heading toward the target's coordinates as he pondered on this. Shortly after, he found himself in front of the warrior encampment. The coordinates pointed to this place unchangingly. The warrior encampment was currently the liveliest place in Y City. This was because the past deeds Eradication army had allocated most of its forces here. The king's command skill of Silver Moon had the most effect on warriors. Since they could not find traces of Silver Moon himself, Dusky Cloud and his army had no choice but to set the past deeds warriors as their main target to kill and to hunt. They had employed the same strategy as before of assigning a job class spawn point with a job class that it was weak against. Hence, a large number of the past deeds Eradication army's mages currently surrounded the warrior encampment. Silver Moon with his king's blade would not be that much of a threat as long as the past deeds warriors remain trapped within this spawn point. Obviously, the past deeds Eradication army's actions still revolved around the removing the firewood from under the pot stratagem. When Gufei showed up nonchalantly at the warrior encampment, the surrounding players, especially the ones with the mage job class as Gufei, could not help but feel deep respect for him. Nearly all the mages around the safe zone idolized him to the point of hero worship. How can he have such high magic attack power? There must be a secret to it, was every mage's thought. As for those with a different job class, their admiration of him was marred by jealousy. Goddamn, the mage job class is just too OP. I would have chosen to be a mage if I'd known about it. Hey, guys! Gufei waved to them as a form of greeting. He then entered the safe zone while craning his neck. The coordinates indicated that his target was inside. The safe zone was currently very crowded, as it was crammed with many past deeds warriors. All these warriors were stuck inside and were waiting for their fellow guildmates to rescue them. Gufei felt relieved upon seeing them. He had initially been worrying that the target for his current bounty mission was someone on Dusky Cloud's side. If that had been the case, Gufei would not have known what to do. Fortunately, this worry could now be laid to rest, as he had just ascertained that his target was a past deeds player. As Gufei stepped inside the safe zone, the past deeds warriors exchanged apprehensive looks and involuntarily backed away. These warriors had experienced Silver Moon's king's command oftentimes and were normally not afraid of anything. However, Gufei's feat of defeating them by casting Descending Wheel of Flames once instilled fear in their hearts. When Gufei spotted his target among the crowd, he immediately raised his sword and shouted, "Descending Wheel of Flames!" Ah! The warriors scattered about. Each of them forgot that they were in a safe zone, as all the warriors could think of was that the player they currently feared had just casted a spell. Gufei cracked a smile. He then swiftly approached his target and delivered a slash. The warriors finally remembered that they were in a safe zone. They were about to point that fact out when they saw Gufei swing his sword at a fellow warrior. Everyone felt stunned. Is this still a safe zone? The warrior raised his claymore to fight back after being assaulted by Gufei. Unfortunately for him, Gufei was not someone afraid of a one-on-one fight. In a few moves, he collapsed in a heap by Gufei's feet. The warrior then faded away in a stream of white light, as the sound of a cell door slamming echoed. Everyone reeled from shock. Too scary. He killed our fellow warrior until he could no longer respawn. Where did this guy send him? Did his killing confuse even this game's system? At the moment, Gufei was feeling so happy at ridding himself of 7 park points in such a short time that he could barely stop himself from laughing. Nice. This method's efficiency is too high, Gufei cheerfully thought to himself. He exited the warrior encampment without a backward glance, leaving behind a bunch of warriors quaking in their boots. After experiencing such a huge PvP, many players were still high-strung. Hence, none of them was clear-headed enough to consider the possibility of Gufei accepting a bounty mission, which allowed him to attack his target even in a safe zone, and of him clearing off his park value by sending that warrior to the underground prison. Everyone's current thought was, where did that warrior die off to? One of them tried contacting the warrior but failed. Everyone fearfully started discussing what had just happened. However, what made them feel even more frightened was Gufei's return not too long after. Gufei wore a surprised look on his face. When he went to obtain another bounty mission for a player with 6 park points, He did not expect that he would end up at this place once more. Descending wheel of flames. Gufei raised his sword and announced loudly. No one was fooled this time. The warriors steeled themselves and stood their ground firmly. A flame wheel appeared above their heads, but the warriors remained resolutely standing. Descend. Gufei chanted, seemingly not bothered that not one of them had tried fleeing from him this time. The warriors remained resolutely standing while looking up, but the flame wheel actually descended upon them. They were all crying and yelling while attempting to evade when that happened, but it was too late. While players could cast spells in the safe zones, those spells could never actually be commanded to attack others under normal circumstances. So what was going on right now? When the flame wheel completed its descent, they felt tremendous heat radiating from it. In the end, they remained fine. Everyone felt even more confused at this. Suddenly, someone among them exclaimed, "Where's our fellow warrior? Where did he go?" Everyone looked around carefully at the warrior's words. Indeed, one of their fellow warriors had disappeared. The warriors' minds were in chaos. This was evident from their use of the word disappeared instead of dead or killed. Their faces turned ashen as they exchanged fearful looks. Once more, someone among them exclaimed, "Ah, what now?" Everyone asked, rattled. 27,149 is also gone. The person announced. "You fucker." "He left through the entrance just now," everyone cursed. "What's going on? Just where in the world did our fellow warrior go?" Everyone wondered. "It must be a bug." "Quickly contact a GM." Someone suggested. Quite a lot of them started contacting the online GMs. Parallel Worlds GMs were just like the ones in other MMOs. They would first complain about the insufficiency in detail of the messages sent by players. They then would ask the players to send more detailed messages. Once the players submitted detailed recounts of incidents, the GMs would then tell the players that they had just assisted them, hence, they would have to wait a few minutes before they could get back to them. In the case of these warriors in the safe zone, after those few minutes of waiting time were over, they contacted the GMs again, only to be told to wait for a few more minutes. Just as this round of few minutes was over and they were about to message the GMs once more, Gufei arrived for the third time. Descending Wheel of Flames. Gufei promptly casted the spell once he entered the warrior encampment. All were rooted to their spots for a bit with their faces showing a look of helplessness. When the flame wheel appeared, no one stood there dumbly like last time and quickly scattered about. Since Gufei could not make the spell descend without a target, he drew his sword and chased one of the running warriors instead. He swiftly cut his target a few times. All the warriors gawked as yet another warrior disappeared before their eyes. Gufei felt that it was odd. Why are none of these guys stepping up to help? Since these past deedsmen took the bounty mission for me, they should be able to attack me in the safe zone, too. Gufei did not know that in the eyes of these players, 27,149 was no longer just a serial number of their bounty mission. When they saw fugitive 27,149, their thought was not, "Ah, it's the mission target. Finally found him." Instead, it was, "Fucking devil's spawn." Run quickly. After killing off a third warrior, Gufei's park value dropped down to 10 points. He had turned in one with 7 park points and another with 6 park points. All in all, he had cleared off 19 park points since the start of his bounty hunting. Gufei cheerfully left the warrior encampment, leaving a mass of shivering warriors once more. Why do I always end up there when I pick up a new bounty mission? Gufei could not fathom this, so he attributed it to his luck. In actual fact, the 3 warriors Gufei had just killed were part of Silver Moon's elite group of warriors. They had followed their guild leader in attacking the various spawn points earlier. They were the ones that had assaulted the archer range, attacked the knight's barracks, swarmed the warrior encampment, and, lastly, charged at the past deeds Eradication Army's defensive formation in the Mage Academy. Only Gufei's timely arrival had ended their killing spree. The 3 were part of the small strike team that had experienced the most battles today. Adding the fact that they were always victorious in their attacks, these warriors naturally managed to acquire a higher park value than the other war participants. These warriors' high park value sealed their fate as Gufei's bounty mission targets. By the time Gufei made his 4th trip to the spawn point after obtaining a new bounty mission, the warriors had already wised up on what was happening. Gufei no longer looked as fearsome to them as before. While his spells were powerful, Only Gufei's mission target would get hurt by them. Let's surround this guy and give him a good beating, even if we've to sacrifice one of us. The warriors gnashed their teeth as they decided on this. While the suggestion was logical, the reality was quite far from their expectation. None of them predicted that Gufei would not bother to enter the warrior encampment and simply shout from the outside, "Descending wheel of flames." The warriors were incensed. It did not matter whether they were part of Past Deeds or a Dusky Cloud's gang, they were all the type to enjoy the violence of PvP. They were hot-blooded and courageous players that did not fear death. So when they heard Gufei casting his spell in such a languid manner, they became enraged to the point of erupting. "I'll go out and kick him even if I die trying." All shared the same sentiment and flocked outside to confront Gufei. Gufei felt shocked upon seeing the Past Deeds warriors rushing toward him. He never thought that these knuckleheads would react aggressively to his spell casting. He quickly made his getaway from this mass of enraged warriors. The warriors dashed out of the safe zone and instantly heard countless shouts of descending wheel of flames. The mages surrounding the warrior encampment casted flame wheels that were faster and more ferocious than Gufei's. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. The warriors that had rushed outside found themselves back inside again. Before they could react, the sound of a sword cutting someone reached their ears. Another warriors had disappeared under Gufei's sword. Only 4 park points left. Gufei muttered to himself, as he ran off once more. Chapter 95, Farewell. Yunjuon City. After obtaining another bounty mission, the ever-talented Gufei bounded toward the warrior encampment to erase his final 4 park points without checking his target's coordinates. When he arrived at the location, Gufei was dumbfounded at what he saw. Not one Past Deeds member could be seen inside the safe zone. "Where are they?" Gufei asked the garrison players of Past Deeds' Eradication army outside. "They logged off." Everyone replied with a grimace. Gufei finally realized why he had not heard the sound of the coordinates refreshing as he made his way over to this spawn point. He opened the mission log and took a look. As expected, the bounty mission target was tagged as offline in the column where the coordinates were displayed. "These people are so shameless," Gufei thought to himself in dissatisfaction. When he took the bounty mission, the target was clearly shown as online. "If that guy's got a shred of decency, he should have waited for me to off him before going offline." Gufei sighed in frustration. The target going offline was a frustrating matter to a player because he or she could not cancel the bounty mission on his or her volition. This was currently among the most illogical features of Parallel World. Gufei gazed forlornly at the deserted warrior encampment for some time. Meanwhile, the players of Past Deeds' Eradication army outside the safe zone were at a loss at what to do next. The Past Deeds players were waging intense battles in the other spawn points, yet the warriors in this safe zone had simply logged off. Just how could this be explained? Were these warriors not the main force of Past Deeds? When the news reached Dusky Cloud, he rushed toward the warrior encampment. Sword Demon had relinquished his duties as the Past Deeds Eradication Army's commander and Dusky Cloud became its de facto leader. "Past Deeds is done for." Dusky Cloud cheered upon seeing the empty safe zone for warriors. Gufei looked backward when he heard Dusky Cloud's voice. Awkwardness swiftly pervaded the air as their gazes coincidentally collided. 8 hours ago, Dusky Cloud, along with some of his buddies, had tried to kill Gufei to avenge his best friend, No Smile. 8 hours later, Gufei, along with his friends, had greatly helped Dusky Cloud's gang wage war against Past Deeds. From start to finish, he had been instrumental in starting the guild war and in turning the tide of the battle in favor of the Past Deeds Eradication army. Presently, Dusky Cloud was in a dilemma on how he should treat Gufei. Recalling Celestial Pig's admonition to him earlier about treating matters separately, Dusky Cloud could not help but reflexively nod his head in agreement. He was about to thank Gufei for what he had done earlier when he saw the latter take 2 steps forward. Gufei was gone in a flash of white light immediately after entering the safe zone. Dusky Cloud bewilderedly opened his mission log and saw that fugitive 27149 was tagged as offline. Having spent over 8 hours in Parallel World, Gufei considered it as a day's work done. After he said his goodbyes to Sword Demon and the others on the private mercenary channel, Gufei logged off to rest. Gufei going offline nationally did not mean that the war had ended. Yunjuon City remained as a huge PvP field, persisting even when he entered the game the next day. When he logged in at the warrior encampment, His spawning location happened to be in the middle of the two opposing sides, the past deeds warriors behind and the past deeds eradication army in front. Gufei blinked his eyes in disbelief at what he was seeing. He hurriedly exited the spawn point when he felt killing intent emanating from behind him. These past deeds warriors had at least learned their lesson, so they did not chase after him this time. "Have you guys been online all this while?" Gufei asked in astonishment, eyeing the players outside the safe zone. Each of them looked weary. "We took turns resting offline," the person facing Gufei answered. "Don't you guys have places to be in reality?" Gufei almost uttered this sentence but stopped himself. He recalled young Master Han and the others' reaction when he had asked them this question before. The idea was foreign to people whose lifeblood was playing online games. Gufei was not standing in the warrior encampment for long when Sword Demon and the other mercenary group members sent him messages. They had agreed to return to Yunjuon City together, so the others were waiting for Gufei to come online. "I'm off." Gufei bid the players around him goodbye. Although they barely knew one another, they had at least spent some time together and shared the same side in this guild war. These people were momentarily stunned, before hurriedly asking, "Where to?" "Yunjuon City." Gufei answered, as he recalled something. "Oh, yeah, almost forgot." Gufei darted back inside the warrior encampment and swept his gaze around. He then rushed toward a warrior while wielding moonlit nightfalls in hand. The said warrior could only gape at Gufei's approaching figure, not knowing what to do as he died under Gufei's sword after a few slashes. By the time the other past deeds warriors reacted, Gufei had long since dusted his hands and left the safe zone. The warriors all thumped their chests and cursed at Gufei's shamelessness for not showing any indication that he was about to kill one of them. Gufei smiled amiably as he bid the players of past deeds eradication army goodbye. He also did not neglect to sincerely thank the past deeds warriors for helping him clear off his park value. After all, his high park value was the reason he had come to I City after fleeing from Yunjuon City. Finally, Gufei was a free man once again. Gufei's park value reset to 0 when he turned his mission in at the bounty assignment hall. Upon exiting the hall and seeing no one present, he quickly took off his mask with a relieved sigh. From this moment onward, the serial number 27149 would be relegated to the annals of history of Parallel World. On his way to meet up with Sword Demon and the rest, Gufei remembered Ziyu and hurriedly fired off a message to her. Ziyu was surprised. "We just got here the day before, yet we're already leaving? To think it's only been 2 days." Everything feels surreal. Gufei was slightly maudlin. Having experienced many things in these past 2 days, he could not help but feel that time was passing by quite slowly. Ziyu had spent her time repeatedly completing normal quests, so she of course found the passage of time to be much faster. Ziyu had wholly submerged herself into finding a way to retrieve the riches found within NPC Adrian's cellar in Yeguang village. Thus, she knew nothing of the happenings in Y City yesterday. "When you logged off, did you notice anything strange?" Gufei found himself admiring Ziyu's ability to evade trouble. "Nothing at all," Ziyu answered. "Where did you log off?" Gufei asked another question. "Fighter's Dojo," Ziyu replied. Gufei somewhat got it. Since few players had chosen the fighter job class, the Fighter's Dojo had not been one of the PvP fields. Thus, it became the only real safe zone in Y City. "How coincidental for you to log off there," he commented. I logged off at the warrior encampment on day 1, and, hey, it's kinda embarrassing but I couldn't find my way back to that safe zone on day 2. When I asked people for directions, they told me to log off at the Fighter's Dojo instead," Ziyu explained. "Didn't they tell you why?" Gufei probed. "No need to. It's obviously because that safe zone is the closest." "You're so silly," Ziyu teased Gufei. Gufei was quite annoyed, finally asking, "When are you returning to Yunjuon City?" I don't intend to head back yet. There are lots of quests in Y City. I feel like it's been a lifetime doing them." "When you get back, please help me convince Sis July to move Amethyst Rebirth Guild's base over here," Ziyu requested. "Sure, I'll try." Gufei wiped non-existent sweat off his forehead. Speaking to Ziyu was much more exhausting than clashing with Silver Moon. After ending his conversation with Ziyu, he sent Willow and Coward Savior a message each. The two were his freshly acquired friends while adventuring in Y City, so it was only right to say goodbye to them as well. Coward Savior was not online. As for Willow, she replied at once, I'm going to Yunjuon City as well. Why? Have you forgotten? All my friends moved to Yunjuon City, so I'm going there to meet up with them, Willow reminded Gufei. Oh, if that's the case. Wanna go together? Gufei asked. Sure. Gufei told her the meetup location. Outside a tavern's entrance by Y City's north gate, Gufei spotted Sword Demon and the rest. However, he did not expect Dusky Cloud and his buddies to be present as well. Gufei wondered if he should cover his face or not. Don't come over. Act as if you don't know us. Sword Demon had obviously spotted Gufei as well. Roger. Gufei replied, as he continued walking toward the tavern. He casually swept his gaze over the people that had gathered by the entrance. Right before entering the establishment, Gufei overheard Dusky Cloud saying, it's not every day that you'd find yourself in Y City. Why not spend a few more days playing around here before heading back? Man, that line's so cliché, Gufei thought to himself. Suddenly, he received a message from young Master Han. Do you realize how fake your casual glance was? What do you mean? Gufei asked, puzzled. Seeing my peerless beauty, anybody would linger their gaze on me. You should have been in the daze for quite a while before realizing my good looks are for real. That would have been far more convincing, young Master Han criticized. Gufei felt goosebumps rose on his skin. Your beauty doesn't excuse your grossness. Just as this message was sent out, young Master Han appeared right in front of him with a blackened expression. Gufei immediately warned, don't forget you're a priest. I can easily kill you. Young Master Han exited the establishment with a ghastly expression. Gufei had no choice but to sit alone in the tavern as Dusky Cloud's gang and Sword Demon conversed outside. Suddenly, a lady entered the tavern, stood within arm's reach of Gufei, and looked around. Willow messaged Gufei, where are you? He tugged on her cloak, right here. Willow lowered her head, looked at Gufei, stepped away from him, and sent another message to Gufei, where? I'm here. I'm here. Didn't I tell you I'm right here? Gufei tapped on the table. Willow skeptically looked at him once more. Gufei felt somewhat annoyed. Were his looks so different from how she had imagined him to be? That was illogical. Only Sword Demon had the looks that could subvert someone's imagination to such a degree. Looking at each other for this long was getting awkward. Gufei coughed lightly, why are you just staring at me? Willow quickly came over and took a seat beside Gufei, asking softly, did Thousand Miles Drunk ask you to wait for me here? What are you talking about? I'm Thousand Miles Drunk, Gufei replied indignantly. How is that possible? Willow exclaimed. Gufei waited for her to refute him more, but she bewilderedly blurted out instead, why is the mission gone? What mission? Gufei asked. The bounty mission for Miles that I've obtained, Willow sputtered. Oh. Gufei finally understood. Willow did not recognize him because the serial number 27149 was no longer displayed on him. He quickly explained to her, I've already erased my park value. What? I remember you having 29 park points last night. How did you get rid of it this fast? Willow asked. There are lots of fights going on all over the city, so many people accumulated high park value. Gufei explained. Willow instantly understood. Oh, right. I've a minor issue I hope you can help me with, Gufei said. Chapter 96, Willow wants to join the group. Outside the tavern, Dusky Cloud and his gang spent almost an hour saying their goodbyes to Sword Demon. In actual fact, not many words could be exchanged between two parties that had only known each other for 2 days. Saying goodbye should take 5 minutes at most. Yet Dusky Cloud stubbornly stayed and was even currently discussing with Sword Demon the ideal stat point distribution for thieves. Standing by the side, young Master Han laughed mockingly and said, stop dawdling. Fugitive 27149 isn't coming. Dusky Cloud's true intention was uncovered with that single remark. These players claimed that they were here to give Sword Demon a send-off while their real goal was to lay eyes on Fugitive 27149's true visage. Gufei had become prominent in Y City these days. However, His face had remained hidden from start to finish as he wielded a blade in one hand and a Chinese broadsword in the other. While many players admired his getup, none of them knew what he looked like or what his name was. Only Willow in Y City knew of Gu Fei's appearance, and she had seen it not too long ago. They felt slightly embarrassed when young Master Han exposed their real intention. But considering how he had tolerated their presence for the past hour, he had at least saved them some face. Although Dusky Cloud felt discontented with young Master Han, he did not snap at him this time. Dusky Cloud tried to make light of the situation by laughing self-deprecatingly. Haha. Looks like we don't qualify to meet him. Guess we'll have to trouble Sword Demon to thank him for us. I had intended to do that at the warrior encampment yesterday, but he quickly logged off before I could say a word to him. Sword Demon smiled and nodded his head. I'll be sure to tell him. We won't bother you guys any further, then, Dusky Cloud said. Cliché parting comments, such as come and play whenever you're free, take care on the road, stay in touch, etc., were all spouted before they truly departed. The 5 mercenary group members entered the tavern and saw Gu Fei moving his table back to its original position. What are you doing? Sword Demon asked, puzzled. I feel more secure when I'm leaning against a wall. But since we're leaving now, I'm moving this table back to its original spot, Gu Fei answered defensively. You're eavesdropping, right? Young Master Han bluntly exposed Gu Fei while flashing him a mocking smile. Haha. I felt bored doing nothing, so I listened in. Gu Fei tried to play it off, just like what Dusky Cloud had done not too long ago. Young Master Han noticed Willow sitting beside Gu Fei, so he remarked dryly, you must have been really bored to busy yourself intently in this 1 hour. Unexpectedly, Sword Demon went up and greeted Willow. You're here, too. Yup. I'll be going with you guys to Yunjuon City, Willow said happily. Royal God Call had a dumbstruck look on his face as he whispered to Gu Fei, you're quite the player to reel in a lady to return with you in just 2 days. How did you do it? Teach this lil bro. Gu Fei was annoyed by his insinuation. What does a kid like you know? Go play with yourself. Royal God Call was affronted by his dismissal. Gu Fei introduced Willow to the 5 men. Besides the new IGN young Master Han specifically created for this game, Willow recognized the IGNs of the other players. She punctuated every introduction with bouts of shock. When Gu Fei got to Brother Assist, Willow bounced excitedly, Brother Assist. You're my idol, you know? Everyone was astonished by her reaction. Even Brother Assist did not know how to respond. Oh, even I have fans in this day and age? Yup. Collecting information and analyzing data are my hobbies, too. Willow exclaimed. Ha ha ha. This lady here has a bright future. Brother Assist told everyone. Truthfully, Brother Assist's gaming style was often criticized unlike the others. To describe him using past gaming knowledge, he was not a player with amazing control, high level, or overpowered equipment. What he had was the theoretical knowledge of how to properly distribute stats for every job class, what kind of skills did the different job classes had, and how to best utilize the job class that was chosen. Any gaming noobs who encountered him would definitely be in luck, yet Brother Assist's ability to contribute when it came to an actual fight was very minute. Many people could not understand why he spent his entire day meaninglessly obsessing over these things, but they could see that he actually enjoyed doing it. Spending most of his time discussing matters with other players and posting the top discussion threads on the game forums were how Brother Assist acquired his fame, the same fame that Sword Demon and the others greatly enjoyed in their respective fields of expertise, yet greatly diminished once outside these domains. In contrast, Brother Assist's expertise that could be applied in all areas allowed his fame to be more constant than the other 4 gaming experts. However, fame did not equate to strength. The players that despised Brother Assist's work were greater than those that admired it. The players who were interested in researching and analyzing data components were naturally few as well. It was no wonder everyone was surprised when Willow claimed that she idolized Brother Assist. As everyone was feeling gleeful, Willow continued speaking, are you guys part of one mercenary group? Can I join your group? Everyone looked at young Master Han. Willow definitely did not qualify to join young Master's elite mercenary group considering the level requirement criterion that they had set during its inception. But ultimately, Young Master Han was the one who had set this criterion and the rest were more or less indifferent to that criterion. This matter could be considered resolved as long as he gave his approval. Gu Fei had his side trained onto Royal God Call. Recalling that time when Sword Demon had asked him to join their mercenary group, Brother Assist, War Without Wounds, and young Master Han did not voice objections except for Royal God Call. And yet, this kid currently did not voice any objection when this level 24 thief had asked to join their mercenary group. A stupid smile was even plastered all over his face as he salivated at the prospect. This kid's disappointing. Truly and utterly disappointing, Gu Fei thought spitefully to himself. Royal God Call usually boasted about his abilities, yet his carnal desire was in full display when faced with this lady. It was no wonder why Amethyst Rebirth's ladies showed such a strong reaction when a male player joined their guild. It was lecherous men like him that sullied male players' good name. Willow finally caught on to who was calling the shots in this group. Fixing her gaze onto young Master Han, she happily said, "This big sis here must be the group leader. Let me join the group, pretty please." Big sis. The harmonious atmosphere instantly dispersed. Everyone nervously looked at young Master Han as an amiable smile slowly appeared from his originally expressionless face. Young Master Han patted Willow's shoulder and warmly said, "So you wish to join our group?" "Not a chance." He then turned around and told the others, "Let's hit the road." Young Master Han's words vastly contrasted his friendly tone, so Willow was momentarily frozen in place. After a bit, she asked, "What happened?" Sword Demon sighed deeply as he left the tavern. War Without Wounds laughed weakly and exited the establishment as well. "When it comes to information gathering, you've still got a long way to go," with a heavy heart, Brother Assist sincerely said to Willow. "Don't worry, leave this to me." "Do you have QQ1? Let's. A kid like you should quietly play in a corner." Gu Fei swiftly butted in and interrupted Royal God Call's pickup line. He then directed a troubled gaze onto Willow. "Couldn't you tell that she is actually a he? Although he doesn't look like one, his voice is a dead giveaway." He clearly spoke quite a few words since he entered the tavern. I totally didn't notice," Willow said gloomily. Gu Fei had no other words to say. This was a mistake he would expect Ziyu to make, but not from Willow, who did not seem to be an airhead at all. "I'll go apologize to him." Willow moved to chase after young Master Han. "Forget it." Gu Fei tried to stop her, but he was too late. Willow had already run outside the premise. He rushed outside, only to find Willow bowing repeatedly to young Master Han to show her contrition. Young Master Han still had that amiable smile on his face, saying, "I'm not that Betty. This often happens to me, so I'm used to it. You can join our group solely because you're not strong enough." "Our team." Young Master Han looked at the others, before pointing at Gu Fei. "You know what he's capable, right? And yet, he's the weakest among us. If you wish to join our group, you need to at least be at his level." Willow glumly said, "It seems I can never join your group." Young Master Han nodded his head solemnly. "That's why I said those words before." Meanwhile, the others gathered in a corner to quietly discuss the situation. "Is he telling the truth or lying? Does he really not mind?" War Without Wounds asked. "It's definitely a lie. Just look at his smile," Brother Assist answered. "Sword Demon, you know him best." "What do you think?" Royal God Call asked. "It's half true, half false." Sword Demon replied. "What do you mean?" Royal God Call pressed on. "Willow's level is truly not acceptable to him. But she has touched a nerve coincidentally, so he's using this opportunity to snub her. I think that's his initial intention, anyway." Gu Fei chimed in. Sword Demon looked at Gu Fei in surprise. "You've got quite a good grasp of his character." "I've got no choice," Gu Fei sighed. "His personality is too obvious." "How come I can't see that?" Royal God Call scratched his head. "What does a kid like you know?" "I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice," Gu Fei remarked. Royal God Call was getting fed up with him by now. "Alright, let's go." After Willow and young Master Han concluded their talk, everyone finally hit the road. "I'll definitely join your mercenary group," Willow whispered as she walked beside Gu Fei. "So you've not given up yet, huh?" Gu Fei mused. "Of course, not. Good luck." Gu Fei smiled. "Hey, what did you do to get so op?" Willow asked inquisitively. "Been training hard for 20 years non-stop even to these days," Gufei answered. What have you been training hard? Willow asked, baffled. Kung Fu, Gufei replied. You mean to say you're so good at PvP wholly because you've been training Kung Fu? Willow had watched the entire process of Gufei's battle with vast lushness. That fight was not like Gufei's usual one-on-one bout that tended in 2 or 3 moves. Having spent quite some time observing him, she was convinced that Gufei was not an average player. Gufei nodded his head. Oh, can I learn it, too? Willow asked. If you've got the passion for it, of course I can teach you some moves. But you can forget it if your intention for learning Kung Fu is to be like me in game. I doubt you'll be able to devote so much time to learning it, Gufei candidly told her. While Gufei had spent 20 years practicing Kung Fu, what he had learned in those years was incomparable to an average practitioner's. Kung Fu was already his entire being, with his lifestyle revolving around it. Moreover, talent factored when learning this particular martial art. The time an average person had to spend into practicing Kung Fu up to Gufei's current level would take about 40 or 60 years. Even their whole lives might not be enough to attain Gufei's Kung Fu prowess. Chapter Notes 1. QQ is an application or program that the Chinese use to send instant messages to one another, except it is way bigger and has multiple uses aside from providing people a means to communicate. Think of Facebook Messenger, Discord, WhatsApp, etc., and then add in all sorts of crazy things like PayPal, Venmo, and Skype. Chapter 97, Gufei wants to quit the guild. Gufei and everyone finally made it back to Yunjuon City after a 3-hour arduous journey through the Oolong mountain range. During this journey, the busiest person among them had been Royal God Call, as he tried every possible method to show off in front of Willow. Not one monster was on the mountain road to kill, so Royal God Call could regrettably not use this most obvious method in online games to woo a girl. This made things difficult for him. With no other choice, he resorted to cracking almost 40 terrible jokes throughout the whole trip. This kid is childish. Truly and utterly childish. Gufei was unimpressed by Royal God Call's actions, so he deliberately walked far behind the pack to avoid him and his not even funny jokes. However, it was obvious who Willow would choose to walk with among the group. Wherever Gufei was, Willow would be right next to him. And where Willow would be, Royal God Call would also be around. Therefore, Gufei did not miss even one of Royal God Call's 40+ horrible jokes. Finally, they arrived in Yunjuon City. Powerful emotions surged inside Gufei at this moment, as he hurriedly stepped through the city's archway entrance. He no longer had to hear Royal God Call's terrible jokes. Royal God Call seemed to have been waiting for this moment as well. He deepened his voice and said to Willow, "You won't be familiar with the places in Yunjuon City since you're new. How about I give you a quick tour?" This fox had long abandoned his fellow mercenaries and was hoping to land himself a date with Willow. Unexpectedly, Willow sniggered, "No need. I've got plenty of friends in this city." "Oh, is that so? Why don't you introduce me to your friends, then?" Royal God Call said without missing a beat. Gufei and the rest could only watch Royal God Call shamelessly follow Willow to meet her friends. "Send me a message." Willow singled out Gufei before leaving the group. Gufei nodded his head in acknowledgement. He understood what she had asked him to do. As the two walked away, he could hear Royal God Call saying to Willow, "No need to trouble Miles. Just look for me if you need anything." Although Gufei had no intentions toward Willow like Royal God Call, he still wished to tell Royal God Call, "You fucker. Shall we leave as well?" Young Master Han probed the others. "Let's." Sword Demon affirmed. "Anyone looking to have a drink can join me." Young Master Han headed toward the direction of a tavern. The rest did not bother to look at him as they left to settle their personal matters. Young Master's elite mercenary group only gathered for 2 reasons: they had a mission or they wanted to drink at Ray's bar. When it came to grinding, everyone would do it alone. Gufei found this strange because all the players he had met thus far always grouped up to grind together. Sword Demon explained that their mercenary group's idiosyncratic behavior was due to everyone's professionalism as well as old habits. While party grinding definitely increases efficiency and makes everyone suffer fewer setbacks, it makes one more dependent on his or her teammates. For us professionals, such reliance on others is detrimental. It's essential for us to have the ability to stand on our own 2 feet in all settings and circumstances. Gufei received quite the shock. It was not due to Sword Demon's sound reasoning that had similarity to Gufei's belief as a kung fu practitioner. What shocked him was Sword Demon's seriousness regarding the whole matter. Gaming was often regarded as a pastime, yet Sword Demon did not have that kind of mentality. Gaming seemed to contain his goals and ideals. Gufei was impressed by Sword Demon's ability to treat games with such seriousness. As Gufei turned around after watching the gaming experts disappear from his field of view, he heard someone calling his IGN. He turned his head back and saw July and Luo of Amethyst Rebirth Guild approaching him. He quickly greeted them. "Hey, it's been a while." "Yes, what have you been up to these past 2 days?" Luo was all smiles as she spoke to Gufei, somewhat implying that she knew very well what he had been up to. Gufei had already expected this and had even taken sufficient precautions to prevent the exposure of his identity. And yet, no amount of preparation could prevent a determined person from uncovering the truth. Fugitive 27149's appearance in Y City had already been revealed on the game forums. This did not mean anything to others, yet it was a clue to people who knew Gufei but did not know of his identity as Fugitive 27149. In fact, no players had traveled between Yunjuon City and Y City before Gufei and Ziu. There was hardly any difference between the two in-game cities. After all, who would actually spend 3 hours journeying from one place to another similar place? 1,000 Miles Drunk left Yunjuon City and Fugitive 27149 surfaced in Y City. Just this was already a damning evidence of Gufei being Fugitive 27149. Although many people did not know who had left Yunjuon City for Y City, the ladies of Amethyst Rebirth did. Ultimately, Gufei and Ziu had left for Y City together. Seeing July and Luo's expressions right now, Gufei deduced that the two had a hunch that he was Fugitive 27149. But since Gufei had come prepared, he readily answered Luo's question. "I left with Ziu to complete some quests over at Y City." "Oh, what sort of quest could that be?" Luo's smile remained unchanged. They knew that only Ziu, the quest fanatic, would be willing to travel to another city 3 hours away for a run-of-the-mill quest. Gufei going to another city for the same reason did not seem probable. Unfortunately for them, he actually had something of great value, a chain quest. Among all quests, it was the most sought after by many players. With a chain quest, let alone 3 hours of traveling to another city, many players would be even willing to travel for 30 hours just to obtain it. Once July and Luo heard the two words chain quest, their facial expressions changed abruptly. Obtaining and completing a chain quest was a shocking affair. After all, if his reason for going to Y City was that, then they could not tell for sure that Gufei was Fugitive 27149. "Are things good over in Y City?" July asked another question. "Chaotic. Extremely chaotic. Players over there are PvP fanatics. All it takes is a few words for people to get into a fight. Dozens of guilds started warring in those 2 days I'd been in Y City. There's so much killing all over the city that no players dared to take a step out. Do you know that Mage that killed No Smile from this city? He's in Y City, too. I even saw him. It's a pity he's kept his face covered." Gufei rambled on. While July and Luo were exchanging looks, Gufei was pondering hard. "Since my park value is gone, no one can surely bring forward evidence that I was Fugitive 27149 once. If I'm gonna do such things next time, I'll make sure to keep in mind the PvP rules. That way, I can avoid attracting so much attention." Too bad for future players who unluckily assigned serial number 27149. Though serial number 27149 of a bounty mission was randomly assigned by the system to a player. It merely indicated that a player was the 27149th player in parallel world at a given moment. Any player that would get assigned this number from now on would surely have quite a rough time ahead of him or her. The atmosphere became slightly awkward when the three stopped exchanging words for quite a while. After a bit, July changed her line of questioning. "Where's Ziu? Didn't you return with her?" "Nope. She's still doing quests over there. She actually wanted me to ask you guys if moving the guild over to Y City is possible." Gufei laughed. "That's Ziu." July shook her head, as she showed a forced smile. "Oh, that's right." Gufei suddenly slapped his forehead. Recalling something, I met a lady who's interested in joining your guild. Your guild? July said, don't forget, you're a member of it as well. You should be saying our guild, instead. I'm just waiting for you lot to get your 20th member before leaving the guild. Gufei reasoned. Oh, no wonder you're in a hurry to introduce her to our guild, July remarked dryly. Gufei simpered, neither admitting nor denying her allegation. When do you plan to have her come over, so that we can get to know her? July sighed before asking. Immediately is good, Gufei replied, asking back, how about you two? You guys free right now? If we're busy, will we be chatting idly with you right now? July asked sarcastically. Gufei could sense that July's tone was off. She seemed to not be happy about something. For a moment, he was unsure whether he should call Willow over or not. July realized that she had forgotten herself. She hurriedly pulled herself together and maintained her usual impassive expression, saying, call her over now. We'll wait at this tavern right here. Gufei nodded his head in acknowledgement and quickly sent a message to Willow. The three then entered the tavern and secured some seats for everyone. You guys go ahead. I need to head to the warehouse to organize my items. I'll be back soon. July stood up just as they sat down. Watching July leave the tavern, Gufei quickly asked Luo, is July angry? So you can tell. MHM. Of course. She is. You're in such a hurry to leave the guild with this look of dislike on you. She'll naturally feel offended. Even I'm fuming, Luo said a bit crossly. Gufei was confused. They were the ones who were angry that he had gotten into the guild. Now that he was finally leaving, they were still the ones getting mad. A woman's thought it was indeed a turbulent affair. It was comparable to the evilest kung fu technique with multiple facets. Say, why are you in such a rush to leave our guild? Luo asked in a slightly chiding tone. I am in a rush. Am I? Gufei answered with a question, perplexed. You're not the only one who can grasp people's thoughts. Others can do so as well. Luo said exasperatedly. I'm in no rush. Me leaving Amethyst Rebirth is what you guys want, right? Gufei reasoned. Wanting you to leave is because you're a male player. Not wanting you to leave is because you're 1,000 miles drunk. Luo alluded. Gufei wrinkled his brows. What's the difference? The tavern door opened before Luo could answer. Gufei waved his hands to get Willow's attention as she walked into the establishment. She had left the area not too long ago, so it was natural for her to be able to get back fast. When he spotted Royal God Call following behind Willow, he suddenly had the urge to pull his sword out. Miles. Royal God Call cheekily greeted Gufei with a wide grin on his face. He stood in a daze for a bit when he saw Luo, before blurting out, ah, it's another beauty. See? Luo said, that's the difference between male players and 1,000 miles drunk. Chapter 98, Begin research. So that's how it is. Seeing Royal God Call's lewd expression, Gufei was of course unwilling to be labeled as the same sort of person. Luo continued speaking. That's why our attitude toward you has changed. As for you staying in our guild, that boils down to whether you're happy to be part of it or not. We'll let you decide on that. If it's me, I won't stay in a guild if I'm unhappy. If that's the case, then I guess I'll stay. Gufei smiled. Deciding whether to leave the guild or not based on his happiness was ludicrous, as he had never taken to heart something like being a part of a guild. Actually, he had never expected to find himself socializing in a guild and playing the game with a bunch of people. Since he felt that it would not affect him much, he would just stay in Amethyst Rebirth. In any case, Gufei only wanted to leave the guild after he had seen how unhappy the ladies were with him in it. Now that his departure would instead garner their ire, the easygoing Gufei would naturally not mind staying. Hee, that's much better, Luo giggled. I'll take my leave first, Gufei smilingly said as he got up, pointing at Willow. This lady here is the one I'm planning to introduce. Hello. My IGN's Willow. Willow genially introduced herself as she walked over. I'm Royal God Call. Ah, fuck, Miles. What are you doing? Let me go. Royal God Call was about to approach the seated Luo, but he was strong-armed by Gufei into leaving. However, an archer's strength was higher than that of a mage. No matter how much force Gufei used, he could not make the struggling Royal God Call to even turn around. In the end, Royal God Call managed to free himself from Gufei's grasp. I want your help in researching about mages, Gufei told Royal God Call. Oh, just ask me if you've got anything you don't understand, Royal God Call announced loudly. Nobody knew who he wanted to hear that. Let's first find a place to fight monsters and study, Gufei suggested. Ah. Royal God Call looked at Gufei before looking at the two ladies, as if he was making a truly difficult decision. Finally, he walked toward Willow and said, I'm leaving with Miles first. Let's keep in touch. Willow nodded her head. Royal God Call followed Gufei out of the tavern and quickly asked, Where did you meet so many beauties? He began to count with his fingers. There's 1, 2, 3. I've met 3 ladies that seem to be pretty chummy with you. Quick, share to me how. We simply know one another. We're not that chummy, Gufei said. How humble. Miles, you're really humble, Royal God Call complimented, continuing, tell me how you get to know them, then. Gufei nodded his head and suddenly threw 2 gold coins to the ground, shouting, Hey, ladies! The 2 female players walking in front of them turned around reflexively. You dropped your gold coins, Gufei pointed to the ground. The 2 ladies looked to the ground and shook their heads. Those aren't ours. No way. I saw these gold coins drop from your bodies, Gufei claimed. That's not possible. The 2 were dumbfounded. Their gold coins were inside their dimensional pockets, so it was impossible for them to accidentally drop anything. Is that so? My mistake, then. Gufei walked forward and picked up the 2 gold coins. The 2 ladies continued to fix their gazes on him, so Gufei asked, Shall I share these with you too? The ladies hurriedly shook their heads. Gufei then placed the 2 gold coins back inside his pocket and strutted off. When they were a bit far from the ladies, he said to Royal God Call, See that? That's how I get to know the ladies. Royal God Call was speechless. If you want to get to know the ladies, you should strike up a conversation with them. Speaking with them is considered as getting to know them, right? It's like asking others what time is it now? But you'll need to invest a little. If those ladies were audacious, they would pocket the gold coins then and there. Gufei taught Royal God Call. They're definitely not audacious, but you've looked like a fool, Royal God Call retorted. That's just an example of how it's done. I wasn't after the results. You should try doing it when you get the chance. It's just basic knowledge, Gufei explained. That's how you usually carry yourself? Royal God Call asked suspiciously, aren't you a teacher? So what if I'm a teacher? If you, students, can have your puppy loves, why can't we, the teachers? Gufei countered. Teacher, I think you're not the least bit honest, Royal God Call muttered. With that, Gufei stopped pulling Royal God Call's leg. Now that the 2 had exited Yunjuon City, he seriously asked Royal God Call, where's the best grinding map for mages? Yunwu Basin. The monsters there are slow and have low magic resistance, Royal God Call answered. How do we get there? Gufei asked. This way, Royal God Call led the way. After half an hour passed, the 2 were lost. It should be here, Royal God Call mumbled, as he took out a small booklet. Gufei was startled at the sight of his booklet. The thought of Royal God Call being possessed by Ziu even crossed his mind. He drew closer and took a look. While it was a booklet similar to Ziu's, the content of it was vastly different. Ziu's booklet was filled with records of various NPCs and their relevant information, as well as clues regarding quests. Royal God Call's booklet, on the other hand, was filled with coordinates of NPCs and locations. Let me have a look. Gufei took the booklet and flipped over to Yunwu Basin's coordinates. Thinking that Yunwu Basin was not just a point but a large piece of land, using just a set of coordinates did not seem logical. Leafing through Royal God Call's booklet, he saw that Yunwu Basin's coordinates actually took up 2 full pages. What are these? Gufei's body shuddered. He had been fooled. Royal God Call's intelligence was not high at all. Gufei thought that he could learn from Royal God Call about the mage job class. At this rate, would Gufei not just degrade himself if he actually learned from him? All these coordinates are part of Yunwu Basin. Why couldn't we find it? Royal God Call grabbed his booklet back and gripped it tightly, looking all around him. Gufei no longer expected anything from him and sent an inquiry to Brother Assist. When Brother Assist directed him to the correct way, Gufei could not help but complain about his situation with the royal god Call. Brother Assist guffawed, don't place your hopes on him. That guy's got no sense of direction. If Royal took forever finding his way with simpler coordinates from an MMO, what more with the coordinates from this full immersion game? Can he even tell his cardinal directions? Royal, where's east? Gufei asked. Over there, I think. Royal God Call pointed toward the south. Gufei sighed. It was exactly as Brother Assist had said. How would a person who could not even tell the cardinal directions find his way using general coordinates? He took the lead after this, and the two quickly arrived at Yunwu Basin. Yunwu Basin was indeed the most suitable map for mages to grind. Mages were running all over the place with packs of monsters trailing after them. The mage closest to Gufei and Royal God Call zigzagged across the field, amassed a lot of monsters after a short distance, and turned around to cast Descending Wheel of Flames. As the leftover monsters closed in on the mage after his magic bombardment was over, he quickly ran off to attract more monsters. Gufei looked around. Many mages all over the place ran in ludicrous patterns and shapes, and each was more brazen than the other. However, the most brazen was still the person together with Gufei. Now that Royal God Call no longer had to worry about searching for this place, the bitter expression on his face disappeared. A look of utmost concentration was now on its place as he put a hand beneath his chin, pointing and evaluating each mage around them. Almost all the mages in the area received criticism from him, such as "Fuck, that guy's an idiot. He's pulling the monsters so far that half of them have stopped chasing after him. That guy's another idiot. He's bombarding the monsters when they're not densely packed yet. Holy fuck. Fireball, repeating fireball, and another fireball. The heck is that grinding method? Ha 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 ha. I've finally seen all kinds of noobs. That guy's running too far away that the monsters are outside his casting range, and so on. Finally, Royal God Call snapped, I spit on all of you. None of you are fit to be seen. He then turned to Gufei and asked, what are you researching about that you need me here? Are you trying to offend my eyes with this spectacle? Gufei stopped himself from conking the Royal God Call and answered, I want to try weaving spells into my kung fu. I feel that it would make things more interesting. Kung fu? What kung fu? Royal God Call was at a loss. This kung fu. Gufei slashed a clean curve in the air. Stop teasing me, Royal God Call chortled as he slapped Gufei's blade aside. What kung fu? I think you've read too many wuxia novels. Gufei did not say another word and just sent sacred flames of baptism cleaving toward Royal God Call. What are you doing? Royal God Call felt terrified by that sudden attack. Even if he knew nothing about Gufei's sword skill, he at least knew of his battle record. Moreover, archers were notoriously terrible at close combat. He had no doubt what would happen if he and Gufei PvP'd. Gufei did not reply as he used his Chinese broadsword to chase Royal God Call's neck. Royal God Call evaded for quite a while before finally realizing that Gufei's blade would stop short of connecting to his neck by 3 centimeters. No matter how he moved, Gufei's blade would follow his neck as if it was an extension of Royal God Call's body. Royal God Call immediately stopped moving, and Gufei's blade stopped moving as well, merely 3 centimeters away from his neck. Royal God Call yelled, Beak control. That's what Sword Demon mean when he said beak control. Gufei did not say anything further. He did not know how to communicate properly with this gaming shut-in. It's tiring to explain my kung fu. Might as well let him think it's this peak control thingy. Yeah, peak control. How do you reckon I can weave spells into it? Gufei did not hesitate to ask the simpleton. That. Are you thinking of incorporating spells into your melee combat? Royal God Call had an epiphany. That's too op. Spells from close range. So what do you think? Interesting, right? Gufei asked. That. It's kind of. Royal God Call felt stunned. Using spells when you're in melee range. That's something I've never researched about. You did not? Gufei was quite disappointed by his revelation. Death usually comes once a mage is forced into melee. The closest thing that I've researched about is how to increase my survivability after engaging in close combat. This. Royal God Call trailed off as his expression slowly became trance-like. What's the matter? Gufei asked. Royal God Call was in tears. Why did I not choose to be a mage this time? Why didn't I think of trying such a method to play a mage? Chapter 99, Spell Mastery. Royal God Call was currently feeling immense regret. He used to think that his skill as a mage had reached the point where he could be considered as peerless. Thinking that being a mage once more in other MMOs would be unfair to others, he had not chosen the job class in Parallel World. He even ignored the fact that being a mage in this fully immersive game would be a whole new experience. Afterward, he had somewhat regretted his decision, but his remorse was never as intense as right now. At present, he was about to help Gufei enter an uncharted territory of the mage job class. A myriad of characteristics, control, and skills of the mage job class flashed through his mind as he tried to come up with new combat styles for it. Royal God Call's interest for the job class was rekindled, burning stronger and brighter as it formed the word melancholy. My role as a mage is not over yet. Royal God Call shouted, his throat raw. The mages who had heard him looked on in confusion. Why is that archer shouting about his role as a mage? Do you have to be so overly dramatic? Gufei felt embarrassed when he heard the mage's comments in the surrounding area. Just like how others could not understand his fascination with Kung Fu, he could also not comprehend the player's mentality regarding games. First it was Sword Demon, now, it was Royal God Call. Alright, let's get down to business. Royal God Call appeared to be more excited than Gufei. Gufei nodded his head in agreement. Royal God Call began to share his hypothesis. The current level 30 mage's skill tree has level 0 Fireball, level 6 Ring of Fire, level 12 Spell Mastery, level 18 Twin Incineration, level 24 Descending Wheel of Flames, and level 30 Repeating Fireball. Spell Mastery is a passive skill, so there's no need to mind it. The other 5 are offensive spells. Gufei nodded his head. His Midnight Spirit Robe had the Spell Mastery +1 trait. Not knowing its purpose, he had tried asking Fleeting Smile about it before. Unfortunately, the latter was busy and could not explain it to him. Later on, he visited the Mage Academy in Y City to learn all the available spells he could and somewhat understood Spell Mastery's function after reading its description. The passive skill, Spell Mastery, had 2 effects. It increased a character's spell aptitude and it boosted spell damage by a certain percentage. This passive skill had its own leveling system. It improved spell aptitude and spell damage by 6% when a player was at level 1. A player could attain the next level of spell mastery if he or she reached the required character level for it. Since Gufei learned spell mastery at level 31, his passive spell was already at level 3 and added 18% to his spell aptitude and spell damage. Gufei reckoned that his Midnight Spirit Robe's Spell Mastery +1 trait had also increased the level of his passive skill by 1, allowing him to deal monstrous magic damage. With Moonlit Nightfall's high spell damage, Gufei's Descending Wheel of Flames could insta-kill those past deeds warriors under the King's commands buffs despite him having 0 spell proficiency. Passive skill was not something only mages had. Thieves had Dagger Mastery, archers had Bow Mastery, and so on. Each job class had its version of a passive skill depending on its specialization. While every job class had no requisite weapon, each still had its forte. This was something any average player already knew. Only someone like Gufei who had just learned the available spells or had no understanding of the game mechanics would be clueless about it. Royal God Call continued explaining, Ring of Fire is considered as a defensive spell. With how mages usually try to maintain distance with their opponents in a fight, this spell has little to no value. But if it's used in close combat, the spell's worth increases. Although its damage isn't high, the spell's effect has a long duration. If you can stick close to an opponent like how you did to me with that sword of yours just now, the spell can perhaps deplete that player's HP to 0. As for how high the damage you can inflict on your opponent, I'll need more time to figure that out. What's your proficiency right now? 0. Gufei answered sheepishly. Fuck! Royal God Call exclaimed, you won't even be able to burn a player to death with such a low proficiency, as it means that the damage your spell deals is low as well. Try to use it more often. There ain't shortcuts to improving your skills. Gufei nodded his head in acknowledgement. Burning your opponents with this spell without them slaying you first, that's the hurdle in this. Royal God Call mulled over this problem. Increase agility for my movement to become nimbler, Gufei answered. Royal God Call was speechless for a moment. Since the system of other MMOs calculated the player's evasion rate to determine whether attacks were a hit or a miss, the players just added stat points or equipped certain equipment to solve the issue. In Parallel World, however, evading attacks and skills required the players to perform necessary movements. Whether attacks would be a miss or a hit was entirely dependent on the player's reaction. Even when the players reacted quickly, sufficient points to agility were still needed for them to complete their evasive maneuver. This became one of the uses of stat points. In fact, characters in Parallel World did not have hit and evasion stats as, in the words of that disgusting slogan used in the game's commercial, the decision lay entirely in the player's hands. While it sounded simple theoretically, it would actually take a long time for players to adjust to this type of gaming environment. By the time the players got the hang of the game, they would have long been expert combatants and skillful weapon wielders. Of course, these talks were reserved for the later stages of the game. Currently, a majority of the players were still in the adapting to everything stage. Gufei saying increase agility for my movement to become nimbler was merely empty talk that sounded theoretically plausible for Royal God Call. Upon seeing Royal God Call's disdainful eyes, Gufei limbered up his body and said, "Here, let me show you." Gufei rushed toward a monster while shouting, "Ring of Fire, appear!" Since Ring of Fire was an instant cast spell, it immediately enveloped Gufei's body once it was casted. The monster cried shrilly as it got exposed to the spell enveloping Gufei before collapsing by his feet. Royal God Call paled visibly. "Your spell damage is very high. Just this defensive spell insta-killed your enemy. What's going on? Didn't you say your proficiency at it is 0? How did you deal such a high damage?" Then, Gufei handed Moonlit Nightfalls to Royal God Call for inspection. Royal God Call took the sword, nonplussed. Upon seeing its traits, he had the sudden urge to log off and never interact with Gufei ever again. He shrieked, "Where did you get this?" "It's a chain quest reward," Gufei calmly answered. "Chain quest reward? Are these rewards so OP by nature? No wonder your spell damage is monstrously high." "The heck? This weapon's physical damage is very high as well. I'll get insta-killed if this sword is plunged into my chest." This. Royal God Call was at a loss for words. "I don't think you'll get insta-killed. My sword aptitude isn't high enough," Gufei refuted. "Aptitude? What's that?" Royal God Call asked. "Oh, it's like this." Gufei regurgitated Fleeting Smile's explanation to him. He was worried at first that his explanation was not clear enough. But who was Royal God Call? He was of course a gaming expert. Naturally, his understanding of online games was comparable to Gufei's understanding of Kung Fu. After listening to Gufei's explanation, Royal God Call immediately got what he meant, repeatedly crying out, "I see." Although Royal God Call was a gaming expert, no current equipment, besides Gufei's, had aptitude requirement in Parallel World. And despite the bow mastery skill having bow aptitude plus 18%, there was no explanation detailing what it was for. Researching about its usage was impossible as well, since information concerning this trait had yet to be released in public. Based on your explanation, any equipment with aptitude requirement is considered as high grade. Royal God Call gazed intently at Gufei's sword. "If we estimate using the spell damage of the general magic staves right now, this sword should be a level 50 to 60 weapon. This means that a level 50 to 60 character with the correct stat point allocation can attain its aptitude requirement. Otherwise, this aptitude design will be meaningless." "What are you insinuating?" Gufei asked. "That having adequate spell aptitude that will allow you to unleash this sword's full potential with your current level 30 and full agility build is impossible." "But if that's the case, why is your 0 spell proficiency able to deal immense damage? What's going on here? Where did that spell aptitude come from?" Royal God Call wondered. "Spell mastery at level 3. That's only 18%. I have a robe that grants me spell mastery +1, bringing the passive skill up to 24%. Plus, mages have innate aptitude towards spells," Gufei explained. "This sword has a spell aptitude requirement of 170%. The innate aptitude bonus from the mage job class won't be sufficient for you to unleash this level 50 or higher weapon's full potential. The stat that affects spell aptitude most likely is intelligence, even if we consider spirit. My point is that it won't depend on agility. Since you only added points to agility, how much spell aptitude can you have with the default stat boost of 30 points for intelligence and spirit at level 30? It's absolutely impossible. Royal God Call calculated aloud. Suddenly, he thought of something. Wait a minute. Did you just say your robe has spell mastery +1 trait? What robe is that? Gufei took off Midnight Spirit robe and handed it over to Royal God Call for inspection as well. Fuck me. Where did you get this? This robe must be at level 60 or 70. Royal God Call was stunned once more. It's also a chain quest reward. A robe that adds 20 points to intelligence. Isn't enough still. Spell mastery +1. By the looks of things, this +1 doesn't increase your spell mastery passive skill by 1 level, Royal God Call said. What does it do, then? Aptitude is displayed as percentage. Does this +1 actually mean +100%? If that's the case, then this robe adds 100% to your spell aptitude, achieving your sword spell aptitude requirement. With that, it's possible for you to wield this weapon to its full potential. Royal God Call's eyes brimmed with excitement, his expression probably resembling Christopher Columbus when he had found the New World. Quick, try it out. Royal God Call held Midnight Spirit robe and returned Moonlit Nightfalls to Gufei. He pointed toward a monster and said, "Go." Gufei followed his orders. He flicked out Moonlit Nightfalls as he rushed toward the indicated monster with his bare torso, instantly casting Ring of Fire. It was exactly like what Royal God Call had deduced. The monster screamed as it got scorched by the spinning Ring of Fire, but it did not fall down this time. Clearly, Gufei's spell damage had dropped by a huge margin. Wahahaha! I'm indeed a first-rate expert among mages. Actually solving the mystery of your spell damage so quickly, Royal God Call cackled arrogantly. The surrounding players observed the rare animal before them once more. This archer is calling himself a mage? What a lunatic. Chapter 100, Peddler's Street. Royal God Call was quite pleased with himself for finding out how Gufei was able to unleash the full potential of Moonlit Nightfall's spell damage. Feeling satisfied with what he deemed as a great accomplishment, he spiritedly continued explaining to Gufei about the mage job class. Royal God Call rattled off to Gufei all the combat techniques of the job class based on his past online gaming experiences as a mage. Although each online game was distinct, the mage job class general design was more or less the same. The specialty of a mage, besides the difference in the skills available, had always been unchanging. Therefore, there would still be advantages if Gufei applied Royal God Call's techniques into the spells in Parallel World. The current spells available in Parallel World were largely similar to the ones found in other MMOs. As a result, many players' research of the spells in this VR game had hugely been guided by their past gaming experiences. Royal God Call listed out all the spells' characteristics in large chunks, unmindful of Gufei's ability to remember them all. Fortunately, Gufei was interested in what Royal God Call was saying, as the methods and tips sounded to him like a new form of Kung Fu, so he raptly listened to the latter. However, when Royal God Call explained how the spells were executed in other MMOs, tapping on a keyboard and moving a mouse, Gufei zoned him out. In Parallel World, everything, observation, physical movements, timing of unleashing skills and spells, etc., depended entirely on the players. This largely differed to other MMOs. This large difference became apparent to the two when Gufei tested the theories mentioned by Royal God Call to some monsters in Yunwu Basin, giving the two a bit of a shock. Gufei was like a sponge the way he easily absorbed all the new information given to him. But while his flawless execution of the requested moves, steps, and attacks was enough to shock Royal God Call, what truly made the latter surprise was how the techniques always ended up failing. Maybe it should not be considered as failing, but that they did not achieve the results expected by Royal God Call upon being performed in Parallel World. Royal God Call forgot to consider something important. Players no longer had the panoptic view of their surroundings in Parallel World unlike in other MMOs. Meaning, they could no longer see everything around them. Seems like we'll need to do major adjustment to these techniques, Royal God Call muttered, asking, "You can't see what's behind your back, right?" But before Gufei could answer him, Royal God Call already voiced his discontent. Damn, this is really troublesome. I need to experience some things for myself to have a better grasp of them, but now, fuck, to hell with the archer job class. He then proceeded to toss his bow to the ground. It's alright, just tell me all those techniques and I'll try to adjust them myself, Gu Fei said. In truth, he was more skillful than Royal God Call in executing those techniques because of his real-life combat experiences. He just did not wish to hurt Royal God Call's pride by pointing this out, especially after the latter had just declared himself as the #1 mage. Royal God Call not choosing to be a mage in Parallel World might be a good thing, as this fully immersive game had practically rendered all the experienced players' past gaming techniques with their keyboards and mouses obsolete. A majority of the players in fact had to research every fighting technique anew with this vermouth setting as the fulcrum. In this aspect, a gaming noob like Gu Fei who possessed great physical prowess had actually become the more skilled expert in Parallel World. There were two types of physicists, theoretical and experimental. Likewise, there were two types of players in Parallel World. The individual differences in terms of ability and potential of the players playing Parallel World gave birth to these two types. Those who could understand and speculate the VR game's mechanics but never apply them real-time were categorized as theoretical players, with Brother Assist being the most extreme among them. Given their inability to apply their gaming knowledge in Parallel World, Sword Demon and the rest could also be considered as theoretical players despite being top experts in other online games. As for Gu Fei, he could be categorized as an experimental player, a top-level experimental player. Right now, Gu Fei and Royal God Call had this sort of symbiotic relationship. One provided theories and the other experimented with them. In Parallel World, experimenting was a lot harder than theorizing. So while Royal God Call was easily identifying the failed theories executed by Gu Fei was painstakingly testing all the theories mentioned by Royal God Call. After some time, the two left the grinding map and returned to Yunjuon City. Royal God Call brought Gu Fei to a crowded, wide street. Players were flanking both sides of it with various items, such as job classes, equipment and crafting materials, on display on the mats in front of them. To think that there's such a place in this city! Gu Fei exclaimed in surprise. Although he had seen some players occasionally setting up stalls on the ground everywhere, he had never thought that there was a street specially intended for peddling goods and hawking wares in Yunjuon City. All the in-game cities were large and Gu Fei only went to places he knew, so he would naturally not be familiar with all the areas in this city. Why don't they sell their stuff in the auction house? Gu Fei asked Royal God Call. The system charges a fee when using the auction house. The cost one incurs is dependent on the bid price set and the number of days it is listed. So if a player places an item and no one buys it, he or she will just end up steadily losing money, Royal God Call explained. I see. Gu Fei nodded his head in understanding. Royal God Call eyed him. I've always suspected that you're a noob. Now, I've confirmed it. Gu Fei laughed, unperturbed. Not only was he a noob when it came to playing a game, he was an extremely unmotivated noob as well. He had been playing Parallel World for quite some time now, yet his knowledge about it was still rudimentary. Royal God Call finally stopped in front of a rather large stall. The items on display in this stall were more exquisite and of greater variety than the ones set up by others. Gu Fei glanced at the stall owner and was momentarily stunned. The person before him was like an Adonis in white robe that had just stepped out of a portrait. He was clearly an NPC given the professional smile decorating his face. Royal God Call bought a large quantity of booklets and quills from him. Gu Fei could not help but sigh upon learning where the in-game booklets and quills came from. Knowing what Royal God Call would need these things for, Gu Fei was thoroughly impressed. Just recording all his profound gaming knowledge about the mage job class would require so many of these newly bought booklets. I wonder how many kung fu manuals can be made from all these booklets, Gu Fei calculated in his mind. Are you going to write down all the techniques and tricks you know in these booklets? Gu Fei asked. Royal God Call affirmed, I doubt you'll remember everything if I verbally pass them on to you. Gu Fei nodded his head in acknowledgement. Sorry to trouble you, then. Royal God Call's eyes suddenly shone brightly. Hey, do you think my techniques can be sold for coins? Does the game have a movable printing skill? Gufei reposted. Royal God Call's eyes immediately lost their sparkle. These techniques that were fast becoming obsolete in Parallel World could not even be put to good use in their final moments. Gufei patted his back sympathetically. Let me summarize everything. Then we can start classes and collect school fees from those. When the time comes, you can have half the profit. Will that work? Royal God Call asked, interested. That's my career, Gufei smiled. It's settled. Then I'll go and start writing your teaching materials. Royal God Call shook the stack of booklets in his hands. I'll walk around and take a look. Check out our source of students, Gufei said. Fuck. Royal God Call cursed, before leaving the peddler's street. As Gufei continued to window shop along the street, he found everything he lay eyes on a novelty. Seeing the haggling of the players around him, he felt as if he had been transported to a flea market in reality. The only difference between the two was that the air around here was a lot cleaner. Violent Fei. Gufei suddenly heard someone calling him while he was strolling along the street. He already knew who the person was with such a distinctive way of greeting him. Turning his head to look at the person, he saw that Ziziotion was dressed in a thief cape. She was furtively squatting by the corner of a wall. Her face was covered and a dilapidated stall was in front of her. Gufei vigilantly looked all around him, only cautiously approaching her after he had ascertained that there was no trap or ambush laid for him. What are you doing here? Gufei asked, suspicious that she was currently doing some sort of shady business. I'm selling things. Ziziotion nudged the small stall before her. Gufei inspected the items briefly and saw that they were a hodgepodge of crappy baubles and trinkets. He did not even need to appraise them to know that they were all cheap objects. The top-grade equipment, especially weapons, in Parallel World could clearly be distinguished with eyes alone. Top-grade weapons usually had aura or energy field enclosing them. Gufei's Moonlit Nightfalls, Sword Demon's Frost Memories, and Silver Moon's King's Blade were examples of top-grade weapons. Royal God Call did not consider his weapon as top-grade precisely because it did not have any aura. Since we know each other so well, why don't you tell me what you're really doing here? Gufei asked Ziziotion, as he squatted next to her. I'm just selling my items. Really? Ziziotion insisted as she adjusted the shawl covering her face. Do you have to conceal your face when you're selling things? Gufei asked. It's because I'm trying to maintain a low profile. Ziziotion replied defensively. Is that so? Gufei was sure that there was a reason behind this. He got up and looked around him to see if he could find any angry customer looking for her. This lady could also be trying to make him her scapegoat once more. In the end, he found no one like that, as everywhere around him remained peaceful. At this moment, a player approached the stall, showing an item to her. Ziziotion, how much do you think this item should cost? Ziziotion glanced at it. 12 gold coins. It'll be marketable if you sell it at the price of 10 gold coins. If I'm looking to cheat a noob? The person asked while displaying a conniving smile. This item won't fool any noob, since he or she will consider it as garbage, Ziziotion explained. The person sighed and walked away. A syndicate of hustlers? Gufei asked Ziziotion. Ziziotion rolled her eyes and was about to say something when another person approached her. Help me see how much this item's worth. Ziziotion gave it a glance and then shook her head. Your level's too high. My appraisal skill didn't work. Upon hearing this, the newcomer tried to pass the item over to Ziziotion so that she could inspect the traits of the item, but Gufei quickly stopped him. What are you doing? The newcomer thought that Gufei was trying to rob him, so he hurriedly stuffed the item back inside his dimensional pocket. Giving your things so easily to people? Beware of not getting them back. Gufei kindly gave his advice. The newcomer was dumbfounded. What a joke. With that, he took the item out once more and passed it over to Ziziotion while carefully guarding against Gufei. Gufei stuffed his hand inside his dimensional pocket, ready to bring out his sword if the need arose. Ziziotion took the item and looked at it carefully. 20 gold coins. She then returned it to the person. Thank you. The person took the item back. Throwing a glance at Gufei, the person walked off and muttered to himself, what a lunatic. Gufei felt extremely aggrieved. Once again, he squatted next to Ziziotion. What? Is that 20 gold coin item not tempting enough for you? Clever. Ziziotion said, looks like you've got quite the talent. Gufei rolled his eyes in response. Zizayoshin's hands were now on Gufei's body. "What are you doing?" Gufei exclaimed in shock. Was this swindler now lusting after his body besides his money? "Your robe is pretty good." Zizayoshin had her hands on Gufei's robe, rubbing it with all her 10 fingers. "This material, it's not something found in the current equipment." "Where did you get this?" "Oh, is that so? How much do you think it's worth?" Gufei asked, somewhat amused. "I can't see its traits." Zizayoshin continued inspecting it, saying, "Take it off and let me have a look." After waiting for quite a while and hearing no response, her gaze left the robe and went up to Gufei's face. He was staring at her with a placid smile. Zizayoshin instantly returned that smile of his with her own. "I know you won't have the guts. Reverse psychology won't work on me," Gufei remarked. "I'm really not trying to cheat you. I haven't seen any textile like this before. It must be a top-grade item." "Let me have a good look at it," Zizayoshin pleaded. "What else is there to see?" "I don't want to risk it with that fascinated look on your face." Gufei absolutely did not trust her. "If you're not gonna believe me, then forget about it," Zizayoshin pouted. "Wait a minute. I'll let you have a look at this one." "Tell me how much it's worth." Gufei took out his sword, Moonlit Nightfalls, intentionally. Weapons were always the equipment worth the most. Considering how the grade of Moonlit Nightfalls was higher than that of his Midnight Spirit robe, Gufei felt that it would be entertaining to watch this swindler's reaction upon seeing something that she could not have. The black aura emitted by Moonlit Nightfalls made all the difference. Quite a lot of players around Gufei found themselves drawn by its sinister radiance once he took it out. None of the players had seen such a top-grade item before in Peddler's Street. Bluntly speaking, this street was a place where the average players would do their purchases or exchange for much needed items. Top-grade equipment was currently only purchasable by pay-to-win players, gaming workshops, or clan guilds and similar organizations. This essentially meant that such items were sold at high prices beyond the average player's financial capacity and could only be found in the auction house or a trade exchange platform. No one would absolutely bring them here at the Peddler's Street for the commoners to buy, except for this one before them, apparently. Once Gufei took out his sword, quite a number of players' eyes shone brightly and a variety of gazes fell on him. No one knew Gufei's real objective of trying to tease Zizayoshin, and most of them only thought that they had finally met a once-in-a-100-year, once-in-a-blue moon noob who treated a top-grade weapon as common goods, selling it for a low price. This was a chance that should not to be missed as it only ever happened once. Quite a lot of people tossed aside the items that they had been inspecting and began to make their way toward Gufei. Some perceived the same intention in the others and threw them warning glares. Plenty of people had such intention, so a crowd soon gathered around Zizayoshin's stall. The experienced players, who saw the situation unfolding, quietly mumbled, "Oh, dear." Cheating the noob out of his top-grade equipment was considered as a source of learning as well. One rule that every expert swindler followed was to never show eagerness when dealing with his or her intended victim. Otherwise, the would-be victim might wise up regarding the swindler's real intention. Although the noob before them was unfamiliar with the online gaming world, he was definitely not an idiot. He could easily realize the value of his top-grade equipment if they acted overly eager. While none had yet to begin his or her performance, the crowd had already gathered near Gufei like a pack of hungry wolves. Everyone eyed one another. They were warning one another to tread lightly when dealing with this noob, otherwise, the noob would realize that his item was a cut above the rest. The situation right now was beyond saving, however. After all, everyone here wanted to obtain the top-grade item in the noob's hand. Peacefully letting anyone pull the noob to one side and discuss the trade was impossible. The initiative could only be seized by force this time. Just as this thought crossed their minds, many people rushed toward Gufei. Nobody wished to lag behind, so a semi-stampede immediately broke out. Gufei and Zizayoshin were still squatting together when they noticed the light before them getting obstructed. They turned their heads to take a look at what was blocking the light, only to realize that they had been surrounded. Gufei was someone who attained the highest park value in Parallel World, and Zizayoshin was a professional con artist who considered swindling as a hobby. The two were obviously the sort that people would bear intense hatred against. Seeing that they had been surrounded, the two reacted accordingly to the situation. And yet, They were momentarily at a loss regarding this large bulk of people's intention. The two could feel their hearts sinking as they thought that their enemies had finally come to confront them. Gu Fei gripped the sword in his hand firmly. Ziziyoshin's fingers squeezed Gu Fei's robe tightly. "This encirclement is a little tight, it'll be hard to break out of it," Gu Fei quietly lamented to himself. It was too bad that his casting speed was slow. Descending Wheel of Flames would not reach in time before he got shredded by this mob before him. This is retribution. Gu Fei felt remorseful inside. Because of his desire to tease Ziziyoshin with his top-grade weapon, he had failed to take note of his immediate surroundings. "Let's just play this by the nose. If the enemies don't make a move, I won't either." Just as he decided on this in his mind, one of the enemies made a move. A man with a friendly smile on his face extended his hand. "Brother, how much are you planning to sell your sword?" Gu Fei and Ziziyoshin were stunned. They each breathed a sigh of relief. While Gu Fei only knew that the person before him had no ill intention, Ziziyoshin understood what was really happening at Peddler's Street right now. She instantly grasped that this bunch of people had a different sort of ill will toward Gu Fei. "I'm not selling the sword," Gu Fei said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Bro, I'll give you a high price for it," someone said. "Oh, how much?" Gu Fei's interest was piqued. The person suddenly deepened his voice. As if making a hard decision, he gritted his teeth and declared, "I'll pay you 20 gold coins." Gu Fei was startled. Even if he neither understood the economic market nor knew the situation, he could at least tell that Moonlit Nightfalls was not just worth these measly 20 gold coins. This amount might be a large sum to an average player, but it was not worth much in the game. A mere glass of the most expensive liquor in a tavern was already worth 20 gold coins, so how was it possible for a top-grade sword to share the same price? The other players showed a look of disdain toward the man who had offered 20 gold coins for the sword. Just the fact that a sizable crowd had surrounded the noob, he would naturally be able to tell that the sword in his hand was worth more than 20 gold coins. But when they saw that Gu Fei was rooted to the spot, as if he was hesitating on something, their hearts trembled. Could this once-in-a-100-year, once-in-a-blue moon noob have no idea about anything in this game? Maybe he's an inborn fool. The crowd was boiling. 20 gold coins? Aren't you being too much of a cheapskate? "Bro, I'll pay you 21 gold coins." 21 gold coins? Just that one extra gold coin? That's stingy as heck. "I'll give you 23 gold coins. 25. 30. Look at you guys with only that bit of aspiration. 50 gold coins." Someone said as he thumped his chest. In Peddler's Street, 50 gold coins was considered as a huge sum. Some players left dejectedly upon hearing that amount being offered. Seeing that a top-grade weapon was currently being held by an idiotic noob, the surrounding players collectively thought, "I won't make a loss if I take it to a trade exchange platform. In fact, I can probably turn it into a tidy sum." With such a thought, all do not even bother to check how many gold coins they actually had in their money pouches and just vehemently called out higher and higher bids. 50, 55, 60, 80, 100. In the blink of an eye, the price had already risen to 500. The top-grade equipment in Parallel World was going for thousands in the trade exchange right now. The transaction would still be very profitable for one of these bidders if Gu Fei sold the sword at 500 gold coins. In the process of bidding for the item, the bidders came to a realization. The noob's sword indeed had denser aura, which was the trademark of top-grade equipment, but its traits were still unknown. The crowd had a lot of appraisal experts, yet none had been able to appraise the sword's traits. Would an idiotic noob level up his appraisal skill to such a high level? In other words, was it possible for this idiotic noob to actually be at a higher level than everyone present? Could he actually be at level 31? They suddenly realized that the noob might not be so simple, despite him showing such a dull expression when all had called out bids. The bidding stopped as suddenly as it started. All coincidentally shut their mouths at the same time, realizing that the current situation was not what they had expected. They wanted to see what sort of reaction their target would make if the bidding stopped. "Bro, 500 gold coins is already the upper limit in terms of price. I believe no one else will be willing to put out a higher price than this," someone from within the crowd said, looking all around him with squinted eyes. The others know what that person was thinking, so they cooperated by keeping their mouths shut, awaiting Gu Fei's reaction. Gu Fei was about to speak when Ziziyoshin, who was beside him, winked at him. "See, there's actually a ton of swindlers in this world," Ziziotion remarked.